Okay, so we are live. I was running way behind tonight, but I'm here.
Right. Ooh.
But I don't have anything like frickin' set up yet, so I gotta do that.
Okay.
So let me close down some things. We are live. Oh my goodness gracious. The cats have been just freaking killing me today.
Yeah, I let one of them up here, and it took me about 20 minutes to undo whatever they did to my keyboard.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Lately, I've been son of a big darn stupid. I've been pulling the book up on my tablet, haven't I? So let's do that. Oop, oop. So many stupid windows up. Anybody? Nobody's watching right now to see my foolishness.
Nobody's watching right now to see my foolishness.
All right, so show notes are up. Get the microphone around her. Ugh. Okay, that's on. Check, check. Microphone working. I was honestly gonna try doing this all on my laptop tonight, but then everything kind of blew up, and so I spent a lot of time the last couple of days just going through this laptop and just deleting all kinds of crap off of it, thinking that might be something that would help it.
Right.
Check, check. But I'm going to turn my hat around.
I was going to say, but you got the Superman logo on both sides. Nice.
Boom! Yeah, okay. Right. Pretty cool. Have I told you the story about the guy that I ran into at a local pizza place who tried to who saw this hat and then tried to test my geek knowledge?
You mentioned it. Yeah, it was. Oh, you're a Superman fan, huh?
Yeah. He's like, but that's not a regular Superman. That's from that one book. What was it? And I said, Kingdom Come. He goes, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was done by Alex Ross. Yeah, that's right. Don't test me, son.
Okay.
All right. Yeah, I put your comment up for everybody to see.
Okay.
Back in the old days when people used to say firsties.
Yep.
All right. You wanna just jump on in, start doing this episode.
Sure thing. Let's do it.
That way our banter can be episode specific.
Can be official.
You get this freaking thing over to the some kind of funny titles for the stories tonight. All right, I'm recording.
I am too.
Okay. Now I guess I'll kick us off here with this episode.
Okay.
Take a drink water. All right. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 42, Campaign Against the Planet. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steven. And 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore.
Sup, Doug. Sup.
Doug just joined us live in the chat area. I don't know what kind of accent that is when people say area.
I don't know. Sounds like
I
a
know what
comic book character or something.
Right. How you doing?
Pretty good. Pretty good. I have a piece of banter here staring me in the face.
Okay, go for it.
Throughout the week, as I am wont to do at work, I sit and work on a computer all day long. And there are times when processes are running that I have more downtime than you probably actually should have at work, but it's there anyways. And something will pop into my head and I'll get on the internet and I'll just go down a rabbit hole. Well, I've been finding that a lot lately. I've been going down a early comic book history rabbit hole, but early for my way of thinking is early for what I can get a hold of. And so that's like late 60s, early 70s. That stuff I still see at shows and stuff like that. I see the comic books before that, but they're back there on the wall in a piece of plastic with like 4 digits on them. So
Yeah.
in essence, I can't see them there, you know.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of the early cartoonists, writers, and a lot of the early comic book companies I've been favoring as I'm doing research and I go back looking something else up. And this is where I stop that catches my eye. This late 60s, early 70s, East Coast kind of early comic book as we know it. And 4 companies keep coming up. Fantagraphics, which is still going today. Company called Last Gasp. Company called Ripoff Press. And a company called Print Mint. Fantagraphics was actually there's another one called Kitchen Sink, but they've gone under.
I've heard of them.
Kitchen Sink was based in Wisconsin initially. Then they moved out to the Ninja Turtle area, Vermont, New Hampshire, I think, something like that.
Yeah.
But those 4 companies, Print Mint, Fantagraphics, Last Gasp, and Ripoff Press. A lot of really early cartoonists, a lot of early comic books. But what gets me is that the books were so raw. They were people who wanted to say something and didn't think they could say it up until this particular point in time. So when they were able to say it, boy, they really said it.
Yeah.
Political stuff, sexually charged stuff, or just straight up what a lot of people would call pornographic. I don't think it was necessarily intended to be pornographic titillating. I think it was intended to be pornographic F the man kind of, you know. But just it just strikes me compared to now. Now I understand now the comic books are much more mass market. So you've got real young to real old, and you try to cover as much of that territory as you can. These folks were just writing, and to heck with who the audience was. They didn't care who the audience was going to be.
Yeah.
It was up to the people who sold the book to tell people that they did not feel were appropriate, that, hey, this is not appropriate, you know. And this is a time period too where you have stories about where people got in trouble with the law because they didn't do that. Somebody
Huh?
just bought the book, took it home to little Bobby, who actually turned out to only be 8.
Boy.
But the book had some, some, I won't say objectionable, but some definitely adult oriented stuff in it.
Yeah.
So anyways, that's just a lot of the spare time reading that I've been doing. I just finished a book on the history of kitchen sink press. I picked up another one out of my comic book room to start reading about the independent. This is called independent press, I, for various reasons.
Yeah.
Nice big thick book that is kind of the tome on indie press. And I didn't write down the name of it, but if you look it up, there's a book by a dude. He wrote it in like the mid 70s, and it's like 500 pages long.
Wow.
And it basically talks about that middle to late 60s up until, of course, when the book came out, which turns out only to be about 10 years. But
Yeah.
he had 500 and some pages worth of material to write about. So
Yeah.
that's where a lot of my off time, when I'm not specifically doing something with comic books, has been going, is to that era, to those people. Crumb was one of the people there. The Keep On Truckin' dude. I know you've seen it with the big thumb,
Yeah.
logo-y kind of thing. Very 60s-ish, but actually, I think he did that in the very late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah.
And some folks like that. That was all part of that. A lot of female writers that are really, they're not as active now, but they're really talked about as being the motivation for a lot of female writers now, is because they read that stuff. That's when those women were coming out and were also drawing things. Comiskey, I believe, is one of the names. Yeah. Anyways, just that's where my mind's been going. A lot of that late 60s, early 70s kind of
Yeah.
new wave, new age comic stuff, breaking the mold from DC and Marvel.
Sounds like fun.
It, for the most part, sometimes I'm like, it's a little too raw for me.
Yeah.
Not that most of it is my kind of thing anyways. I'm still very much a superhero guy.
Yeah.
They weren't writing about superheroes. They were writing as aggressively and as granular and as grating as they could. So, but yeah, it's been interesting to see that this is where it kind of started, into the 80s kind of stuff that I really dig, into the 90s with a lot of the uh, punk and outlaw artists and things like that, moving on into now.
Cool. Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
Freak Brothers, yep, that was one.
Never really got into them. I had back in the 90s when I was playing in a band, our bass player / singer, once he found out I was into comic books, he's like, "Oh, you got to check out the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers." And I think he gave me, loaned me an issue or two, and I was just like, not really for me, but I always remember that.
They have a cartoon that's fairly recent, like just the last couple years, on Tubi, maybe.
Oh yeah,
I think a couple 3 seasons on there. I watched the first season and I was like, yeah, I'm good. I can't I can't do anymore.
Yeah.
Gilbert Shelton was the creator of the Fabulous Furry Freak Brothers.
Okay.
For Doug or anyone else that might want to know.
Well, I read. I'm not going to really go into it because I recorded an episode for Just Another Fanboy yesterday about it. But I read what I consider almost the perfect Superman story recently.
Cool.
Superman Up in the Sky from Tom King and one of the Kubert brothers. I don't remember which one, Andy or Adam. But do you remember 2018 when DC was doing those exclusive giants for Walmart?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, they had like each issue had a like 12 pages of a new story, and then the rest was reprints. And this was serialized in like 12 of those issues.
Okay, so it's
And
it's collected from those that he did.
Yeah,
and,
they
okay.
did eventually release them as issues. They had to take like 2 stories and stick them into one issue, so it was like six regular comic book issues, but it was 12 parts ultimately. But man, it was freaking amazing.
Well, cool.
And I know I had to mention it since we're on a Superman podcast.
Sure.
It was really fun. I don't know if you remember, there was it was either when those stories came out in the Giants or when they collected them. But do you remember some brouhaha on the internet about an issue of Superman that was constantly showing Lois dying, and people were really upset about that? It's like, you got to keep killing Lois over and over in this comic book and blah, blah, blah. People were really angry about that.
I don't think I ran across that. No.
That's where this Up in the Sky is where that came from. And as soon as I got to that issue and the story's called The 1,000 Deaths of Lois Lane. I started reading it and I'm like, oh, I remember this. People were pissed off about this.
Okay.
But it's Superman's out in space. He's like 100,000 light years from Earth or whatever, and he is arranged to call Lois like a certain time every day or a certain time every week, and he's in this, like, it's like an alien DMV almost. Their role is to beam phone calls, thousands of light years away. So he goes up to the counter and they dial Lois and she doesn't answer. So like the whole story is him sitting in this waiting room, and every once in a while he'll go up to the counter and he'll be like, "You called my name?" And they'll be like, "You need to wait for us to call your name." "Well, you just called my name." "Are you sure?" This whole like bureaucracy kind of crap.
Okay.
But in between all that, he can't help but picture, why is Lois not answering the phone?
Okay.
And he's imagining all these scenarios, like Lex Luthor kidnaps her and kills her and all this stuff. And it's like, I read that and I've been I've never been in an alien phone center, but I've come home from work or something and nobody was home, or have been at work and tried to call home and nobody answered. And of course you just start going, why aren't they answering? What? And immediately your mind goes to all these did somebody come and break in and murder them all and stuff? And so that, I could kind of understand people's anger, but I don't think they quite got what Tom King was trying to do there.
It very much sounds, just from your description, as yet another attempt by a writer to show people that Superman is like us.
Yeah.
And that's,
it was so good. The central theme of the story is ultimately that Superman will never back down. He will do whatever it takes, and he will overcome any of the odds to help someone. It was so good. Doug, that if you've got the DC Infinite Universe or Universe Infinite app, it's on there. That's where I read it. And I'd been hearing a lot from people over the last couple of years that there was a great story, and I decided, I need to read more Tom King. So really enjoyed it.
Oh, cool.
Yep. All right. Banter complete.
All right.
Shakunk. Are we shutting the gate on the banter? I've got more. I'll save it till the next episode.
Oh yeah, I do too. I actually wrote things down so that we could spread it out.
I like how we plan our off the cuff banter.
Yeah. Hey.
I mean, that's, if you ever delve into the like behind the scenes of a talk show, all those questions that they ask celebrities and their answers, it's all pre-written to a certain extent. I've seen I've seen comedians on there sitting in the chair talking to Kimmel or Conan or whoever, and it's like they're having a conversation, but they're doing their act. It's like I've seen them do that on stage. That's all their jokes. And then it ruins it for me, you know.
Well,
but
behind the curtain. That's why you got to be careful. If you go behind the curtain, be sure that that's what you want.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So today we're looking at a story called "Campaign Against the Planet." This appeared in Superman #5, and when I first saw that title, I saw the title before I read the story, and I assumed at some point there was going to be aliens invading the Earth. When they said planet in the title, I thought they meant our planet, but no, it's the Daily Planet. This was written by Jerry Siegel. The artist was Paul Cassidy. Superman #5 has a cover date of 1940. Summer 1940, but an on-sale date of May 10th, 1940, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, which is where we also got the synopsis to the story. So I'll tell you what happened. Actually, before I start, let me ask you this, because right away in the synopsis, they give me the name of this politician. How would you pronounce his last name?
Evil.
That's what I thought. I kept thinking Evil, but I'm like, nah, I bet it's Evil. Evell. I mean, that's too on. Part of me was like, that's too on the nose. But then again, it's 1940. So
yeah, today we'd be like Evil. It's like no. What is it? It's evil.
Yeah, evil. Yep. All right. So corrupt politician Alex Evil buys a rival newspaper, the Morning Pictorial, to increase his political power. Using the newspaper's influence, Evil gives honest city council leaders a bad name and attacks the police force in order to make things easier for his racketeer pals. The Daily Planet begins a series of articles taking a stand against Evil and his actions. Evil tries to buy the planet as well, but when he can't buy it, he begins a campaign of dirty tricks against them. He sets fire to their delivery trucks, forces newsmen not to sell the planet, and otherwise disrupt circulation. Superman intervenes to make sure the planet gets out to its readers. He corrals the mobsters responsible for the vandalism and terror. Evil orders the capture of Lois Lane in order to lure Superman to his death. Superman overcomes his attackers and tries to force a confession from Evil. Although Evil won't confess, his henchmen do, which convicts the man for his crimes. What do you think about this one?
It was different feeling. I enjoyed it quite a bit. There were some things that happened throughout the story as far as things Superman did that haven't come up before, but was the start, because very similar things happened throughout the rest of this issue #5 of Superman. The other two stories, hopefully, that we'll be able to talk about tonight. And so it was like, wow, that's never happened before. But then it happened, and it happened, and it happened, and it's like, oh, okay, I see you've latched onto something that you like, and so now it's becoming so. But yeah, I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun. I liked the twist there at the end. As far as twists are concerned, when it's instead of his normal MO, which is to force a confession from somebody, he tries it again this time, and the guy won't do it. But his henchman, who the Evil had left in the building that he set on fire, he's like, let him burn. They're like, you're going to let us burn? All right, we will confess everything and we'll get you put in jail. And I thought that was great.
Yep. He finally, somebody that gets done dirty comes back, and it's like, man, I don't appreciate what you did. And we've seen it happen a couple times up to now, but they didn't do anything. It was just like they stayed henchmen. But in this story, they were like, no, you no pun or perhaps pun intended. You burned a bridge, and so it's like, yeah.
Yeah, and the henchmen were really kind of funny in this book, in this issue, in this story. There's a particular panel after Evil writes the story about Counselor Barnes. Barnes' accusations top Baron Munchausen, basically saying that Barnes was speaking out against Evil in his newspaper. And so there's this one panel where Evil's hanging out with some of the racketeers, and like one guy's like, the cops have arrested Mike and all the poor guy done was rob a bank. Like that just amazes him that how dare they? And one guy says, it's an outrage. They confiscated all our fake lottery tickets. It's to them, that's just a natural way of life. And for somebody to do something that is in any way opposite, it's not like they go, well, I understand why the cops would do that, because what we're doing is against the law. No, they're like, they shouldn't be doing that because this is the way I make my living.
Well, not only that, but I think a part of it is that they have never done that before.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like their world, that doesn't happen in my world. And so here it's happening and they're like, what? So
and if you read between the lines, they could be just basically saying that up until this point, we had the cops in our pocket. They were all crooked, but now suddenly they're on the side of the angels.
Yeah, they've got the press behind them now, so they don't have to worry as much, or however somebody like this would look at that.
Yeah. We also had pouring some water here, so we also had some more evidence of Lois the flip-flopper when it comes to her feelings toward Clark. When Clark starts to write the article about Evil near the beginning, she's like, do it, Clark, get him, or something like that. And she calls him where is it that, because when Evil sends his crew out in the pictorial trucks to just basically disrupt the planet's circulation, it's like this gang war out on the streets between two rival newspapers, which is exactly what it is. And Superman, at one point he says, well, the Daily Planet is too upstanding to hire some thugs to defend it, so I'm going to have to do it myself. And so when all this is happening, of course, the publisher, whatever Taylor, whatever his name is, he wants Clark to go out and get the news. He wants Lois to stay inside because it's dangerous. Stay at the planet. It's dangerous. Not a place for a woman to be. But he wants Clark to go out and get the news. And Clark, there's violence out there. I can't go out there. And they Lois ends up going out there with him. And so there's a moment where this guy is standing up to Lois and Clark, and of course Clark is like, careful, Lois, he might get violent. And so the guy pushes Clark's face, which is at least the second time that's happened in a Superman story.
He pushed him by the face.
Just and there's also a lot of instances of people saying at the end of their sentence. Daily Planet reporters, It's a lot of that. But as Lois is walking away, she's upset at Clark. And she says, and you just stand there and let him get away with it. Clark says, but Lois, he was twice my size. Surely you didn't expect me to. And she finishes his sentence. Behave like a normal red-blooded he-man? No.
She's ragging on him pretty hard.
And then later, when Evil lures her out of the planet by having a tip called in that Clark has been hospitalized or something, she's like, oh, I've got to go. Poor Clark, and somebody's like, you can't leave the planet. The chief told you not to leave, but I've got to find poor Clark. He's hurt. So yeah, she's very wishy-washy.
right after she was ragging on him for not being red-blooded. She's
Right.
yeah.
Red-blooded He-Man.
Several times in this story in particular, 2 times, these 2 situations that you just spoke of that involved Lois, I like the drawing of the action lines to show that she is very literally turning on her heel
Yes. Yeah.
and walking off or walking away or whatever it may be, but it's very much it's symbolizing in my mind turning on her heel.
Yeah. Let's see if I can.
But in
That
both of those
particular
situations,
panel. Oh, darn it.
I was gonna say it might have moved on you. Yes, that's the
That one
first
right
one.
there. Yeah. But I like Clark. Oh.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
and then
she does it again there, where she's leaving to go to the hospital. She takes the call at the end of the one page and then the first panel on the next page. But the chief left orders for you not to leave the building. Same effect. She's just swishing right by him. And I like the
Yep.
feel of that in the
Yep.
artwork.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Paul Cassidy. And then on the same page, we have the moment that I thought happened in the previous story where Clark is hanging on to the bottom of the car and just sailing along beside it, basically, which just looks freaking ridiculous. And he actually pulls himself under the car.
Mhm.
And as the auto climbs a curb at the end of its journey, Superman's head bumps against the curb, smashing it. And his response is, just got a good scalp massage.
Yep.
A lot of one-liners from Superman lately.
And this happens again in one of the next 2 stories. I don't know if it's the next one, but it's one of the next 2.
Yeah.
Almost the exact same thing. And this
Yeah.
was one of those things that I was talking about that we've not seen them do before, but now they're doing in rapid
Yep.
succession. They're repeating it.
Yeah, and that other one, it was bumps in the road, and he was literally smoothing out the road.
Leveling the road.
Because that's crazy.
And
But
you mentioned the newspaper wars here. First, they try to block traffic with their delivery trucks. Well, Superman stacks those up like cordwood, although they say like a deck of cards. Then there's an armored truck that they try to use, and he gets rid of that. Then some bad guys try to turn over some of the delivery trucks for the planet, but Superman catches the truck and rights it so that it doesn't get flipped over. Ultimately, he picks up, is it the well, actually, this looks like the truck that he righted, so that can't be right, but he grabs the
same
truck
color.
well, and it's got the Daily Planet symbol on it too.
Yeah.
So
so after he overwrites the truck, the thugs that tried to tip it over jump into it and drive away.
Yeah,
so they steal it basically.
Yeah, and he takes it and flies. He can't fly yet. He jumps up with it, which this got me. I'm not a stickler for comic book science per se. There's, of course, you start out having to suspend disbelief to begin with, and so if that's what you're going to do, you might as well just go whole hog and just But he jumps up with this truck. And he jumps up to a building and lands on top of the building holding the truck. Yeah, I do not think it's going to happen that way. I think, goofy me, that truck is going to punch him through the roof just like a bullet, and he's just going to,
Well, it doesn't. Yeah,
well,
it.
But
and
not
then
only that, he jumps from that one point on the roof. He jumps to go higher up, so he's kind of doing more like a Spider-Man, jumping from building to building, only he's doing it holding a whole freaking truck over his head. And I'm like, ultimately he sets the truck down on top of a smokestack. And I was wondering, I'm like, dude, how do you get out of that?
Right? And speaking of motion lines, as he's jumping away, he's like spinning in
Yes,
midair.
he's got another turning on his heels kind of. Yeah. So there's several conventions, I guess you could call them, that come up in this story that just quickly start repeating.
Yeah, it's like the artists really want Superman to fly. They just, you know,
Yep. He just can't yet. Not yet.
because the 3 panels, well, the 4 panels where he's carrying the truck, when he jumps up with the truck, you see him jump across the second panel, land on the roof in the third panel, and then jump up to the smokestack. It looks like he's flying, plain and
Yes.
simple.
Yeah. That's from the panel when he first picks it up on the previous page.
Yeah.
The way that it's drawn and how he's situated underneath it and everything, he's flying. He didn't
Oh, yeah.
jump carrying that truck. He's flying
Nope.
with it. But yeah,
Nope.
can't
Yeah.
fly yet, or doesn't fly yet, or what, however it turns out. I just I don't understand why that change hasn't been made. Is it editorial that they don't, that they won't let it, or it just,
I don't know.
it's weird.
I don't. It'd be interesting to find out, how these were put together back then. We know that there was eventually in the '60s such a thing called the Marvel method,
Mhm.
where Stan just told his artists, "All right, this is what's going to happen in the comics. I need him to do this, this, and this." And then the artist actually tells the story. They put it all together,
Mhm.
and then Stan would go in afterwards and fill in the dialogue and caption boxes and whatnot.
Right.
So I don't know if this is part of me feels like it's kind of the same thing. Like the artists are drawing Superman as if he's flying because as far as they're concerned, he should be flying. But
Right.
then Siegel, is that the writer? Yeah. He's going in and putting text in there
Yeah.
to make it clear to everybody that he's not flying, he is jumping.
Right.
So yeah, is it like a DC edict, or is Siegel like, no, he doesn't fly? Gosh darn it!
Yeah. I just, I don't,
yeah,
I don't understand why can't he? What, I mean,
yeah,
what is surely somebody has thought that, man, wouldn't it be cool if he flew? And this is where
right.
you say, well, yeah, it would be cool if he flew, and my name's not Shirley, but that's okay.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
sorry. Yeah.
We get another moment in this book where Superman is tossing a guy up into the air and catching him.
Mhm.
And at one point, again, you brought up the motion lines. He's holding the guy over his head, and he's very obviously just shaking him up and down as he's holding him.
Yep.
And I'm assuming his arms and legs are just snapping like twigs.
Yeah, you know it, man.
Good stuff. Oh, yeah, this is the story. So I thought it was the next one, but the truck goes off the cliff,
Mhm.
and Superman leaps after it, grabs it, and while he's in midair, throws it up, and then lands on the ground, and then jumps back up to catch it.
Right.
Which
Yep.
is pretty awesome. But the fact that he's like in the air catching the truck and then tossing it back up in the air while with no resistance at all behind him.
What? How did?
So,
yeah, I don't.
I feel like, and it may have even been that Superman story I was talking about at the beginning. I feel like that was brought up at some point to Superman. I think it was, because there's this little girl he rescues, and she's just pestering him with questions, and he is more than happy to answer each and every one of them. And I'm pretty sure she asks him, how do you push something when you're in the air, because there's no resistance behind you? And he's just
There
like,
you go.
it's too hard to explain, he tells her.
That's as good an answer as any.
Yeah.
I have a question, and you may not know. That's fine. Superman's okay. Somewhere it came up. Oh, it came up in a book that I was reading to read along with John's Superman in Crisis show.
Okay.
Somebody depowered Superman by taking away people's belief in Superman, in what he could do. Like, took
Like
away
Santa
his
Claus?
maybe like took away his confidence.
Okay. I can see that, yeah.
Okay, so my question is this: is are the things that Superman can do, like say his strength or his uh, invulnerability, his imperviousness to damage, are those cellular things, or is he thinking, and so he is telekinetically increasing his strength and increasing his durability and things like that? Do you know? Hasn't that been addressed, that there is
It
some aspect that is
post crisis, yes. He is a solar battery and he absorbs the radiation from our yellow sun, and that's what gives him his power. So it is at a cellular level. Pre
okay?
crisis, I can't, I cannot
Okay,
speak in any confidence how that worked before the crisis.
because there's a Marvel character named Gladiator, uh, and he is part of
With
the
the big Mohawk guy.
Mohawk. Yeah, he first really showed up in the Fantastic Four, but he's
Yeah.
a member of the Shi'ar Imperial Guard, and he is Superman,
Yeah.
but his abilities are based on his belief that he can do those things.
Hmm.
And so you attack him by making him question his ability to do these things, and suddenly he cannot do them. He's not as strong as he should be. He takes more damage, et cetera, et
Yeah.
cetera.
Goodness.
And so I just, with reading that from what the book that John was talking about, in that it it was almost like his confidence was waning,
Yeah.
and so he did not believe that he was capable of doing these things, and it caused him some issues. He wasn't really going up against bad guys where he had to be super strong or invulnerable or things like that. So it
Yeah.
didn't reflect that way. But it um who was it? Somebody, who was the bad guy? Parasite? It was Parasite. And he was leeching the people's belief in Superman away from him, just like he leeches other forms of energy. They were saying that that is a form of energy too, that he
Hmm.
was doing that, and so people were starting to turn towards him, Parasite, as being the big superhero going to save everybody,
Hmm.
and not Superman. And Superman started feeling that.
Was this a recent episode?
Yeah, within the
Okay,
last
yeah, because
couple three.
I remember listening to one of his last episodes, and
Mhm.
the parasite was in it, but
Yeah,
I'm often doing like making breakfast or something, and so I
sure. Yeah,
miss
yeah.
certain things. But I do remember him saying, or maybe it was the next episode, and somebody had written in to say that that's not really how the parasite's powers are supposed to work. But I don't know.
Uh,
Pre-crisis, I don't know. But the second Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie,
mhm.
that's what kind of happened to him. He starts losing his powers throughout the movie, and it's kind of, you kind of find out it's because he's lost confidence in himself,
Right,
and
right.
that's,
Yeah,
yeah. So his powers just stopped working. So
kind of a play on male performance, if
yeah,
you will.
it's like getting the yips.
It's so yeah. Okay. Um. Okay. I don't think anything else really stood out to me. Oh well, we do have a hanging Superman,
Yes.
and not only is he hanging, but the bad guy notices that he's hanging and he sees his
Right.
fingers, and he goes and gets a fire axe and he
Uh,
tries to show Superman not to do that. And then when he brings up the axe, of course, the axe is notched from where he.
right.
So,
That that panel though, where he, I don't think this will come off on the camera too well, but that panel where he notices Superman's
yes,
fingers in the window pane has got to be one of my favorite panels ever of these Superman books. Because yeah,
and we can
yeah,
see it. I mean, they drew
yep,
the hand so that
yeah,
we, reading the book, can see his fingers there from halfway across the room on the window pane. So
it's
yeah, that
it's
was good.
very. It makes me think of moments like Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain,
Right, right.
or people like trying to hide in plain sight, and they're just like, if I pretend that nobody can see me, then they won't see me. And I that just cracked me up. And then he gets his hand hit with the axe, doesn't hurt his hand, it damages the axe, and then he jumps up to the roof, and then immediately comes back down because his thought is he won't expect me to come back so soon.
Exactly. Yeah. He knows I left. He won't expect me to be back.
Yep. Yeah, let me look through here. Yeah, there's really,
I think that's everything. Um,
yeah, there's this almost like this bookend thing with the story where at the very beginning, the chief is telling Clark that he can take a vacation,
yes.
but then the newspaper war breaks out, and he's like, nope, can't take a vacation. And then when it's all wrapped up, Clark is like at the end, all right, I'm ready to take vacation. Nope, now you still can't take vacation because now that the rival newspaper is in good hands, we have to make sure that we stay competitive.
Yeah. Kind of.
And then he tells them I want news. Get out there, I want news.
Yeah. You've seen that play out in television shows, in movies. Where boss says something, but something happens and you're not able to do it. And then at the
Yep.
end, when you come back and you call the boss on the fact that he said you could do something, he turns around for whatever the reason and says,
Yeah,
"Nope, you can't do that." Yeah.
yeah. I don't remember saying that.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. We ready to wrap it up then?
I think so. Yeah.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks, Doug, for joining us live. Of course, stick around, Doug. We're going to do 2 more episodes. But
Yeah. Yeah.
behind the curtain, we're going to record a
Yeah.
couple more episodes. But until then, folks, until next week, I'm Steven and that's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Ciao.
All right, let me save this. So one of the things that I had to start doing so that my Audacity, well, I think a lot of it was because my laptop was full.
Okay.
It just, even though I kind of run Audacity off of the external hard drive, it uses
Right.
the hard drive of the laptop to save the temporary files as
Right.
it's
You're right.
processing.
Yeah.
So
Still uses it as a resource.
yeah, so I think that was part of it, but just to be safe, I've stopped recording in stereo, and I've stopped doing everything, and I do it all in mono now, and
Okay.
I can't tell a difference. So
Um, does it make any difference for you if I save as MP3 or WAV? Would you
no,
prefer one over the other? Okay.
doesn't matter. No,
I didn't know if that had changed or not.
I mean, if you talk to an audio purist, they'll tell you, oh, you got to do it in WAV because you lose something when you make it an MP3, and then when you make that MP3 into an MP3, you lose even more. And I've
Well,
never noticed a difference. So
isn't it something
my,
else for music? What is FLAC? FLAC. That's the big lossless way
yeah,
to save it. And for the longest time, there weren't any free media players that even recognized FLAC.
yep,
Now here recently, I've been seeing them, so it's not as big a deal. But once upon a time, when us digital, shall we say, hoarders used to um, traffic in music. FLAC. Nope,
Nestor.
nope. Yeah, that's it. MP3 was the way to go.
Yeah,
So
yeah. Apple Music. I don't know about Spotify or Amazon or anything like that, but I know because I do Apple Music, they now have an option in your preferences where you can basically listen to lossless files.
okay,
So that's what I choose. But
is it a
again,
big deal? I mean,
I'll say this: when I'm listening to my music through these headphones, which are semi nice noise dampening, headphones,
Okay.
sounds really good. I notice a difference when then I get in the car and I try to listen to the same song and I'm like, why does it sound not as good
Okay.
as it did in the headphones?
So
But yeah,
part of that benefit is you've got to have really good caliber speakers
yeah, I
to
think
play
so.
it through. Otherwise, it just yeah. Okay. I've
The
I've
prob
listened to MP3 files for
Oh yeah,
20, 25 years, and
yep,
honestly, I've heard some bad files, but not because they were MP3, because they were
yeah,
bad recordings of whatever. But
exactly. Yep,
otherwise, MP3, any way that I've listened to it works just fine for me. I'm not gonna sit back with my snifter and it's like no, I just music here good, okay, so
yep. Yeah, it's I mean I'll admit that I do think vinyl sounds better.
okay, yeah,
I've been in situations where I have listened to a song either on the CD or on a tape, using the same stereo, and then I put the vinyl on, and there just is a deeper, richer sound. There just
yeah.
is.
Now that I
Um,
will agree with, but
yeah,
vinyl, but you can't go vinyl necessarily for
right.
the dearth and breadth of an entire music collection. That's
Yeah,
just that's what we do in comic books, and how often are we saying we run out of space and all that kind of stuff?
right.
So
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the exact reason why I don't do physical comic books anymore. I just don't have room for them.
right,
And
yeah.
I feel sorry for my kids when I pass on and they're going to have to go in and just shovel all that stuff into a fireplace or something because
Well, you know what they'll do is they'll give a quick call to Chuck Rosansky over at Mile High and say,
yeah,
on your next swing through this part of the country, can you stop by and give me some money for this?
yeah. Speaking of which, do you find that whenever somebody you work with or, some acquaintance learns that you're into comics that they immediately start going, I've got some old comics at home. Do you think you could look at them and tell me how much they're worth? And
Absolutely,
you go, oh God, you
absolutely.
know,
Yep.
it's like, no, because what I'd have to do is look them up online. I can't just look at a comic and go, well, that's
Right.
worth this much,
Which is the exact same thing I would recommend you do. So,
Exactly. Exactly.
so
It's
here,
like,
why don't you go ahead and do that? That way I don't have to worry about
yeah,
it.
teach a man how to fish.
That's it. And he won't ask you to fish is
Right.
how that's the rest
Yeah.
of that. Yeah.
But back to the headphones real quick. I think one of the big problems with these headphones though, is I think it's making my tinnitus worse. Because I like right now, do you know what tinnitus is?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
yeah, right now I can totally just hear a constant ringing. And there are
Hmm.
there are moments where I just don't notice it, but when I do, it's so loud. But
Well, huh. So do you think maybe that's because you're like taxing your eardrums and
yeah,
that's the reaction of being taxed is
yeah, because of it, I have to, you got to turn the music up louder to
right.
to get it over the ring, and that just beats on your eardrums and makes them worse. So
Okay. Yeah. I never, my wife suffers from tinnitus, but it's I don't, we've never noticed that it's a situation that for her that has peaks and valleys. It's kind
yeah,
of just for her, it's a constant, noticeable at this
yeah,
point. So,
for me, I think it's always there, but sometimes I'm just so distracted, I guess. I'm so used to it being there that
mhm.
I don't even, it's just part of life at this point. And then if I realize it's there, that's when it really kind of stands out. It's like, oh
Hmm,
yeah, there is a really loud ringing in my ears.
okay.
But pretty crazy. All right. You ready for this next one? Doug, are you ready for the next one?
I'm good to go. We'll wait for Doug.
Yeah, we'll
We're
wait
not moving on.
the 3 minute delay
Yeah.
for Doug to answer, which is really just a shame because you know you Doug can still participate, right?
Mhm.
it's better than nothing. But at the same time, it's like, when same thing would happen when I would watch you guys doing Boom Addiction,
Yes.
or I'd leave a comment and you guys have already moved on to the next subject, and at some point Chris would look down and go, okay, what was that in reference to? Because
Yes. What were we
we've
talking about?
changed the subject 4 times since then.
Yeah. Terry, when she has commented both here and on Boom, she said the same kind of things.
Yeah.
I don't
All
know.
right, I'm recording, so I'm ready to go whenever you are.
And I am too. Okay. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode 43, Luthor's Incense Menace. Hello, and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name's Ed, and 1,000 miles over there to my left is another host, Mr. Steeven Orr.
Hiya.
So, yeah, I was going to say, Doug says you need some headphones that crank. Need some Bose.
Yeah. Well, I got these headphones because I think I was on Amazon and I was looking at some, not Bose, those are, or even Beats, they're just way too expensive, but
Right.
I was looking at the brand that I recognized, but there was all these comments that was like, no, don't get these. Get these instead. You've never heard of them, but they're great. And so many people were saying that I got them, and yeah, they're pretty awesome. I couldn't tell you what Soundcore is the brand.
Yeah,
Never heard of that before.
I've never heard of Soundcore either.
Doug's ready, by the way.
Okay. All right. So what's up with all these balloons from China?
I don't know. I haven't been paying a lot of attention lately, and then suddenly it just seems like every third tweet is about balloons.
Man.
And at first I was like, why is everybody talking about balloons? What's going on there? And I had to dig. I didn't dig deep, but
Right.
didn't take long to figure out what's going on. But yeah, this balloon, they shot it down, and then, oh my gosh, they found out that there was a balloon when Trump was president and he didn't tell anybody. And oh, now there's more balloons. And it's just like,
Well, I was running over those comments in my head about Trump not saying anything about balloons while he was in office. Now, I would submit that it's not that he didn't say anything. It's that, pardon my language, his stupid ass didn't read his daily briefs. And so he didn't
right.
know about, he truly did not
Yeah.
know about it because he didn't want to know.
Yeah.
How many
He
times over his presidency did he just come out and say that he didn't this and he didn't that and he did? Something like this would have come across his desk on a piece of paper for him to read.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't believe it's that he hid. I just truly believe it's that the butthole did not know.
He had no clue. He was too busy worrying about the force of toilets flushing, and you got to flush them more than once, and because he wouldn't shut up about that
stuff being banned on Twitter, and
yeah,
it's like, yeah, get out of here, man. That's okay.
It's one of those things that unless Fox News was talking about it, he probably had no idea.
Right. And that's why he knew, because he, I don't know, listened to Fox or watched it or whatever. It's, surrounded by these people who, although admittedly, Trump did not surround himself with people much higher up the evolutionary ladder than he himself was, because he couldn't deal with, so yeah, it was, and I am not, I cannot say that I have been a fan of any president, but I will say that President Obama surrounded himself with people that were better than he was at everything that they did.
Yeah.
Now, whether he listened to him or not, or whatever, I don't know, but he was surrounded. He surrounded himself with really good people to use if he was going to need them.
Yeah.
So Trump, I
Yeah.
don't think did that. I don't really think that Biden has done a really good job of doing that either.
Yeah.
My thought has always been a smart man will always surround themselves with people. Well,
Yep.
with people who are smarter than they are. If you
Yeah.
need
That's,
help,
I'm the manager of our department at work, and I have a lot of people that are much smarter than me, and that's why we're a successful department. That's why we are one of the more highly profitable departments in the company.
well, if you have a problem, why are you going to turn to someone that is dumber in that subject than you are?
Exactly.
And be a success. You're not going to
Yeah.
be successful. It just,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, because
So
otherwise you're doing it all yourself, and
if
there's
you don't
never a
know, there's
guarantee
no
that.
help.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yep.
yeah. So
Yeah,
so
I've never really been a big fan of most of the presidents either, but loved Obama. Just loved him.
uh,
He
no,
was
but definitely
he
the lesser issue of many of the more recent ones.
he hit me though in the non-political way. He was cool. He would do stuff like sing when he was
Oh,
and some of the
sure.
stuff he'd say about his wife and junk like that.
He was
I love the man.
he was a lot more real than a lot of the other.
Yeah.
He was a lot more Obama than he was president at times.
Right.
Whereas it seems like so many other people have been president. Anytime you see them, they're president.
Yep.
It's like, yeah, he kind of let that down or took that coat off or however you want to put it, sometimes. So
Well, and it's funny because I really liked Biden when he was vice president, and I don't dislike him, but it's like, you know,
yeah, I
it.
I just
To, I'm still, I'm 50 years old. I'm still living paycheck to paycheck. I've never owned a new car, you know. So until a president can stand up and stop all this price gouging and
yeah.
keep the country out of the hands of the 4 or 5 people that are worth billions of dollars, then I don't, it's like I don't really have
Yeah. And
I don't know, yeah.
unfortunately it's not going to happen because
No, because this is the way America's been since
right,
it was founded. So
right. When you boil things down, you get to a point where R&D doesn't make any difference. There are
yeah,
similarities, even either higher or lower, depending, than R&D. And
yeah,
until that is not the case, fundamentally, they're going to be the same.
yep,
So,
yep. I truly believe that there are people in this world that got into politics originally because they truly wanted to help
yes,
their fellow man. They wanted to help humanity, but something happens to them along the way. They just immediately, there's just so
yeah,
much corruption and money changing hands that,
they uh,
you know,
they fall victim to the machine.
oh
Takes
yeah,
some longer than others, but they fall
yep,
victim to the machine, and it's like, well, wow, you're not any different. Yeah, you're right. They're not any different.
yeah,
So, and if if you think that this person or you think that you will be different, no, no, it's not going to happen. Everybody will, from all these different outlooks, everybody eventually gets down to the one or two or three outlooks, no
yep,
matter where they came from, and it turns out to be the
yeah,
same.
yeah. And I think that's the thing with most people when they are voting for someone. It ultimately comes down to 1 or 2 issues, and that's it. It's
Yeah,
like I could give a crap. It's like I'm voting for this guy because he believes in this one issue. Everything else he believes in is completely opposite that what I believe, but because of this one,
right.
that's why and I get it. I think there are, obviously there are politicians that, they're some of their some of the things they want to do happen to align with the way I feel.
Hmm.
And so that's who you got to gravitate towards, right? It's like
And
you
just
you seem to though I'm sure you're just one corrupt MFer, you seem to want to still kind of make your
Right.
money
I'll,
from the lobbyists who are trying to change this part of America, and that's the part of America I want changed.
right.
So,
I'll give you
you
your
know,
chance.
yeah,
I kind of suspect how things are going to turn out, but yeah, I'll go ahead and do it.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I've always leaned left, and it's funny because my parents were Republicans until my dad. Do you remember the? I'm sure I've talked about this before. Do you remember the air traffic controllers strike in the early
yes,
'80s? My
yes.
dad was an air traffic controller,
Oh,
and
okay.
he got all of the striking air traffic controllers got a letter from Ronald Reagan saying that he was going to end the strike. Vote for him, get him in office, and he's gonna make things better for them. And yeah, they all he gets elected, and then they all lose their jobs. And my
Right.
parents went, "We're Democrats now," just boom,
Yep.
because we struggled for a long time because of that. So
Yep. Yeah. I can certainly understand that.
yeah,
Yeah. That's
and that's
I
we got really political there, but yeah, but that's the way it is for most people. It's the one thing, boom.
right. I'll vote for you because you said you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's just too many freaking issues. There's too many things that need to be fixed that you're never going to find one person that wants to fix every single thing you want to have fixed. You're just
Yeah.
not.
No.
So you
No.
go
That's a
for what they call the lesser of two evils, really is what it comes. That's the way I look
which.
at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyways, I need to stop, or I'm gonna get up
So,
on a
hey,
box here.
speaking of Golden Age Superman,
Okay.
um, have you been listening to Superman Radio Revisited
Not so much
podcast?
lately. There, I've dropped off recently.
I wasn't listening during the previous storyline, the Dragon's Fang or whatever it was,
Hmm.
but this new one is all about. I'm only 2 episodes in, but Clark and Jimmy are on a clipper ship, the last of the clipper ships. I think that's what the story is called. And there's an old sailor with a wooden leg who wants the clipper ship, and he's the bad guy. And it's just so funny because he calls everybody matey, and
Okay.
he like at one point, "You're making a big mistake, matey." It's so funny.
Yep.
It's some good stuff. It's really funny stuff. And again, when I listen to that show, when I listen to those old radio programs, and then I read these stories that we're reading for the show, I hear the radio program because
Oh,
it's
sure.
the
Yeah.
same language, it's the
Hmm.
same flow. It's fun.
Yep. Yeah. You definitely can see the one people in the other,
Yeah,
whichever way.
exactly.
Yeah. All right. You ready to move on?
Yes, sir.
All righty. Today, folks, we're looking at Luthor's Incense Menace, which appeared in Superman #5. I believe this was the third story in
Yep.
Superman #5. This is written by Jerry Siegel, penciled by Joe Shuster, and inked by Paul Cassidy. Superman #5, as we spoke on last episode, was dated summer 1940, but has an actual sale date of May 10th, 1940, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics, which is also where the synopsis for the issue comes from, and it follows. Clark Kent investigates a sudden wave of unemployment. After questioning several business leaders and noticing a smell of incense in their offices, Clark inquires about it to a businessman, Mr. Gregory. Now, Mr. Gregory denies its importance, but when Kent leaves, calls a secret Gregory calls a secret boss, who then orders the Daily Planet bombed. Actual bombed, people. Superman stops the bombing and returns as Kent to Gregory's office. The man commits suicide and makes it look like Kent is responsible. Clark gets out before the police arrive and returns to help them realize it was indeed a suicide. Clark continues his investigation, which leads him to a ruthless businessman, Borden Mosley. Mosley refuses to see Kent, so Clark sneaks into the building another way and overhears Mosley's plan. The crook sees Clark hiding. This is kind of something that you mentioned about hiding in plain sight kind of thing. Happens here. Clark is hiding and his henchmen throw him down an elevator shaft. That old trick. Clark survives and confronts the crooks as Superman after learning the true villain is Luthor. Following Mosley to a secret hideout, Superman encounters many traps. He catches up to Mosley and learns of a conference where the leaders of the conspiracy are meeting. The Man of Steel disguises himself as Mosley and attends the meeting. Luthor sees through his disguise, but Superman overcomes his foes. Luthor apparently is killed in a plane crash. We've seen that before. Superman then works to free the business leaders from Luthor's influence, for the Incense was a narcotic Luthor supplied to gain power over them. With the men cured, the nation begins to prosper again. So several newish, different things happened in this story. First of all, I enjoyed this quite a bit. It felt similar to the previous story, which also felt different from a lot of what has been going on up until now. So it had kind of a uniqueness to it, as to me, as far as how it felt in reading it. Several things happened or have been happening since the previous story, and those same types of things happened again in this story. It was cool. We definitely are starting to see, I think, that Luthor is going to be, although we thought this previously, a longtime foe of Superman that they can use and get away from, and use and get away, keep arch villain, arch enemy, if that's what you want to call him. I think it's going to take a little bit more time before Superman has any arches, but Luthor is definitely starting to work his way up that list. And Luthor is always trying things. It's like he feels something out there can defeat Superman. And so when Superman goes up against him, it's always a series of newer things or newer ideas that are tried to see, does it damage? What does it do? How does Superman shake it off? How much time does it take him to recover? Whatever. It's almost like it's a step in and feint that Luthor is doing whenever he faces Superman. He goes in and he comes out, and goes in and comes out, trying to find that thing that will finally put Superman down. And it's always funny. Somewhere in the story is that one thing that does, because Superman realizes that that's what he needs to do. It doesn't really work, but for that particular moment, Superman allows it to work, or pretends that it works, or whatever. Only, and Luthor's like, oh, that's it. Finally found. And then Superman comes back and he's like, no, you didn't. I was just pretending, Yeah. So what'd you think, Steven?
I enjoyed it as well, but I also found it to be like this confusing whirlwind of ideas that they just felt like they were just kind of throwing stuff at the wall, and whether it stuck or not, it went in the book. Because, well, for example, when he goes in to talk to the first businessman, because the chief is like, hey, the nation is going through some kind of bad financial crisis. Why don't you go out there and talk to businessmen and see what you can find out? So he goes to the first guy, and as he's talking to people, he smells this incense. Every guy he talks to, it's this incense. So when he brings it up to the one guy, and then he goes outside, and suddenly a bomber flies up and starts dropping bombs. I'm like, okay, did I miss a page? Where did this come from? And he stops that, and then he goes back to the guy who just commits suicide, but he does it in a way to try to frame Clark for murdering him. And then it's like, okay, so who's the bad guy? Is this the bad guy? Okay, this is the bad guy. Oh no, this is oh no, it's Luthor. It's just, And we actually had a big first in this one. Superman's costume.
Yes.
He
I made a note of
explains that what was it? They were when they threw acid on him or something.
Mhm.
His costume is made from a material that he invented
Right.
that is indestructible.
Right.
And basically, I read that as, yeah, they don't want to be drawn his costume all torn to shreds because that's just too much work. So let's
Yep.
it's indestructible. Well, we don't have to worry about continuity. Was his cape ripped in the last panel? That kind of stuff. So that I thought it was funny. Oh, I invented it. It's indestructible. It's like, yeah, you don't know about the fabric. It's from Canada. You don't know about it.
Yeah, you've never seen it. It's
Yeah.
although
But
honestly, at this point, you've got to wonder, where did it come from? I mean,
he
because he's a
invented it.
grown man, so it's not
Yeah.
like unless it grows with him, and that would be kind of freaky. But it's did Ma Kent make it? No, she couldn't have made it
Yeah.
because it's impervious. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it just
They
is.
they literally say, he says in the comic that he invented the fabric. That's
Right.
as far as he goes. He
That's
invented it.
yep.
We also, I don't know if this showed up in an earlier issue, but we have Superman contorting his face so that he looks like this other guy. It's like,
Right. I don't
that's
remember
some
that.
Plastic Man level stuff, and so, yeah. I mean, I know that he has posed as other people before, the boxer Larry Trent
Right.
and the football player, but that was always with the use of makeup.
He's
But
got a guy.
Doug says he's got a guy. Yeah,
He's got a guy.
I got
Yeah.
a impervious fabric guy.
Yeah, I got a guy. I know a guy. It's
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you're right.
The guy's me because I invented it,
Right.
because that's
Yeah.
what I do. But yeah,
He just used makeup, or
yeah,
if he did do this same thing, they never said that that's what he did.
yeah, exactly. And so he can contort the muscles in his face so that his head and face change shape and his hair changes color.
Right.
That's
That
some crazy golden age stuff right there.
that's some awesome control. Right.
Yep.
That's exactly
Yep.
what that is. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. That's like Plastic Man level kind of.
Yeah. But even Plastic Man, when he changed his shape, he still had the same Plastic Man color scheme.
Right. He just hid part of it or something like that
Yeah.
somewhere else. Yeah.
We also have a gray-haired Luthor
Hmm.
in this one. But yeah, there's just a lot of stuff. The incense, I mean, the title of the story is what? Luthor's, what is it?
Incense
Luthor's
Menace.
Incense Menace.
Yes.
And the incense was given to these businessmen, and they're forced to smell it at all times because it makes them
Yeah. It's
want to follow him, or I don't remember exactly what the incense was all about. But then there's this drug. Do they say the name? They don't say the name of the drug in the synopsis. God, what was the name of that? No, that's not this one.
no, it's the next.
No, that's the next one. Okay.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
See, I'm all confused because of the incense that is.
Yeah, they said it was. Didn't they say it was like narcotic?
Yeah, it's a
The
narcotic
incense.
incense. So they're getting
Yeah,
all stoned, they're getting all high, and
that's
then
it.
they're like, "Hey, man, could you give me some of that incense again, man? I need some of that incense."
They're
And that's
doing
how
the
Luther's
40s ayahuasca, and then they're looking to Luthor to be their Lord and Savior while they're on their ayahuasca
Yep,
high, or he's the
yeah.
priest leading them through their
He's
yeah, it's
the pusher man.
yeah.
Control through drugs. That's what Luther has come to at this point. He's drugging his followers.
And isn't that what people have tried over the years to do
Yep,
successfully? Is
yep.
control a given group of people via drugs. That's yeah.
And yeah, Clark hiding in that closet. And at first, the henchman and the boss are talking, and the boss is like, hold on, I got to put my jacket and hat away. I can't pay attention while I'm got my jacket and hat. And you see his hand going into the closet to hang up his jacket and hat. But obviously he's turned in the opposite direction. He's not looking. We don't see that, but Clark's in there going, good, he didn't see me, even though he's right there, you know? So obviously the guy's just doing it from memory. He's not even looking in the closet. Hanging. But then, of course, they discover him because they see his feet underneath the suit that's hanging there. They're like, hey, there's some feet. And then, so yeah, they throw him down an elevator shaft, which was that was a good thing. I mean, that was a smart thing for them to do. But
that's classic. Get rid of somebody. Just pitch him down the elevator shaft.
Yeah, throw him down the elevator, and then you guys are going to have to get down there right away to collect his corpse.
Right. Yeah.
So
can't leave him there.
But yeah, again, the bomber thing just, I mean, that just threw me through a loop at first because it just seemed to come out of nowhere.
For those of you that don't have access, haven't read it, won't read the story, whatever, this was it was an airdrop bomb. That's what the businessman told somebody that a nosy reporter had been there, and the effect was that the big boss sent a bomber to bomb the Daily Planet building, like plane, fly, release, bomb. And actually it wasn't one. The panel shows Superman holding 3 or 4 bombs. I mean, he's jumping each time. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, he's in the air and he's gathered them up, and he's, it says he throws them like into the bay river or something like that. Yeah. But it's like, and the synopsis, said the connection that you had to make reading those panels, because the connection wasn't there. The businessman just called somebody and said, hey, I just had a snoopy reporter. And then the next thing, Clark is changing into Superman and jumping up to grab bombs before they hit the planet.
I think he says something in his head, he's thinking to himself. I think Superman says something like, obviously they tried to bomb the Daily Planet or something to get me off the case. I feel like he said something like that, but it happened so instantaneous. It felt like it just, like, he literally goes into the guy's office, says, hey, what's up with this incense? It's nothing. And then as Clark is leaving, the guy picks up the phone. Hey, somebody's asking about incense. And then the moment Clark steps out onto the street, there's already a bomber in the air above him dropping bombs. It just, it's so weird.
Yeah, it happened pretty quick. A bomber ready to discharge its cargo. He notices.
Yeah, with his telescopic vision.
Yeah. Anyways, going to blow up the Daily Planet, eh? Not if I can help it. Yeah.
Yeah. He used his telescopic vision in the last story too, because he spotted like the thugs messing with the paper boy or something from across the city.
Well, he saw when the truck got knocked off the cliff.
That's right. Yeah, because then he's able. Yeah. But we also get another scene of his jump flying with the gyro plane, where he just happens to jump and dodge bullets and land on the plane and all that stuff. And he's amazing in the air for somebody who can't fly.
Everything that you could not do on just one set of motion, up and down. That's all there is if you're going to jump up and down.
Exactly.
He's over here having jumped, but then he winds up over here, and it's like, okay, just say he can fly.
And I think we get more of that in the third story, like to the point where he's actually doing acrobatics in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we'll get to that. I probably my favorite scene or part of this story was when Superman follows the guy to Luthor's lair, and then he has to go through all the traps and he falls into the he's like going through this tunnel, and the floor opens up underneath him, and he falls into this pit with spikes, but they're all bent from where he lands on him because he's superhuman, and he says, "Odd, but I'm actually a bit comfortable." It's just all these one-liners. He gets acid poured on him. He gets in between a couple of antenna that do something, but
they send out bolts of electricity.
Oh, that's right.
At him, he gets caught in between them. In essence,
yeah. It was good. It was fun. I enjoyed it. So far, everything from this issue, Superman 5, has been just been a ball. But this one just seemed, like I said, they were just throwing ideas at the wall, and whether it stuck or not, it got into the issue, got into the story.
The things seemed a little bit more frenetic in this issue. There wasn't as much connection. It was just like you say, just, well, let's try this. Well, what if he this, and how about that? And so they just wrote it in there. And there was no one thing leading to the next. It was just thing after thing after thing. So
yeah, I mean, they kind of did that in the previous story with the newspapers, because he was just all over the place, but it all had to do with him stopping the rival newspaper from doing various bits of violence against Daily Planet people. But it was just like, he's there, and but it all had something to do with one central theme, whereas this it does, but it's just so many different things going on at the same time.
Same way. Everything isn't necessarily because of the same issue. It just the issue is happening there and it's happening over here. This was like, no, each time was a completely different issue that he was having to do something about, deal with, or whatever. I just wonder if, this is the 5th issue of his book, and we've talked about 25 or 26 strips from Action. So, we're upwards to 40 different stories. And so I guess they're trying to, having gotten away from the newspaper type writing, which newspaper adventures can stretch out for weeks, months at a time, literally months at a time. Here they're like, no, we've got to wrap this up. If not this issue, then the next issue, or if not this issue, then in the Superman issue that comes out in 2 weeks, wrap it up so we can do something new to get people interested. And then the next time, the same thing. And, we can't rely on these long-term people that will start and we'll get them locked in and they'll keep going. We constantly got to try to bring in new people with new and different things, it feels like. And that's seems to be where the stories have certainly gotten to at this point. And from this point, that never lets up. It goes back and maybe stretches out a little bit over time, that they take a little bit more time, but you can see now it's the start of that. Every issue here, it's every story is somebody's first story. So we have to do those things to bring them in and to keep them. And if they don't stay for the next story, we have to throw something in it that gets somebody new to replace that person that didn't stay. But getting
and
a lot more frenetic and energetic.
Yeah. It's like their goal is there has to be at least one action panel on every page. We can't have a page go by that something exciting isn't happening. I mean, that doesn't, there is one page that isn't, like, I guess the most exciting thing that's happening is Clark climbing up the side of the building like Spider-Man.
But that was something new.
Yeah. And it actually says he's digging his fingers into the mortar to make finger holds.
Being Superman, it's like, well, why hasn't he been doing that the whole time if he wants to do something? I mean, just climb up.
Or why doesn't he just jump?
Why doesn't he just fly?
Yeah, exactly.
Doug
But
says that's one thing I love about Golden Age stories. They'll just put in some really wild stuff and not worry about the reality of it.
yeah,
Yeah,
yep,
absolutely. And
yep,
it even depending on what books you're reading, it even ratchets up in the Silver Age that it becomes even more wild and out there, just whatever idea. And then when the Bronze Age comes around, they kind of try to, as much as you can, reality base things a little bit and kind of, chill out the whatever you want to do kind of stuff that went from golden to silver age. And then they're like, no, we gotta
yeah,
bring it back to write actual stories and explain things and everything like that. But yeah, some of the silver age stuff, particularly these characters like Superman, who's over the top to begin with. I mean,
yep,
Superman can do anything that you want him to do, within reason. But he whatever, and you can just say like, oh well, I invented the cloth myself. That's why it doesn't
yeah,
disintegrate in acid. And it's like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense.
yeah. And I think
Nowadays you
that's
couldn't do that, man. People would just lose
yeah,
their minds about, oh, that can't be because, well,
yep, yeah. That is honestly, how we get the Superman we have today. Because you look at his first couple of appearances, really he's just a strong guy who can jump far and run fast, and bullets bounce off of it. That was
mhm,
it. But as the stories progress, they every time they put him in a situation that they need to get him out of, most
exactly.
of the time they just invent a new power so that he can get out of it. Oh, now he's got telescopic vision. Or, oh, now he can see through things and heat vision and freeze breath. And,
Right,
it's like,
right, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, Doug, you're right. I've been reading some Silver Age JLA for well, another show that I do about Dr. Fate, and I've been reading the JLA JSA team ups throughout the '60s, and it's some Brave and the Bold. I've been reading too through the '60s. It's wow, yeah,
I recently read the first JLA story, with Starro,
yes, okay,
and because they have like Justice League in the Silver Age Volume One
hmm
available through Comixology Unlimited. So I stuck it in my queue and sat down the other day and read the first issue, and I was just like, Snapper Carr has to be the single most annoying character in the history of comics. And I'm afraid to go on to the next issue in case he's in it. Because yeah, he's always Snap. I want to punch him in his face. But
Well, you'll have to make the call. Either you're going to read JLA,
yeah,
or it's like
well,
because
because isn't he basically like the Rick Jones for the
yes,
JLA? He's just like their
that's exactly
sidekick.
who
He's
he
always
is.
there.
Yeah,
He
and
was
actually,
annoying.
in a lot of ways, Rick Jones turns out to be a little bit better character because at least they use him with other people.
Yeah,
Snapper Carr, other than the JLA, I believe, really doesn't get used too much
yeah,
more. At least Rick Jones turns out to be a foil that you see against Hulk, Captain America, Captain Marvel. You know, Snapper Carr is just
yeah,
he's one annoying biatch. Just
yep.
yeah, it's with his hip kind of yeah, all right, yeah, okay.
Yeah, and the way he talks, that no teenager has ever talked like that in the history of the world, unless they
And,
were doing it ironically.
and you say that, but of course it's not Snapper's fault because
No, yeah,
he is being written by somebody.
right,
That person obviously doesn't know what in the heck is going on with that, but
yeah,
yeah, it comes across through poor Snapper, and you're like, I don't think teenagers then were ever like that.
right. And I
But
I wish I had the writer in front of me so I could say, "Did you mean for Snapper Carr to be that annoying? Because he's freaking annoying."
or just ask them, did,
Yeah,
did you know teenagers that were
yeah.
like that when
Have you
you
ever
were a
met?
teenager? Yeah,
Have you
is
ever
that
met a
real?
teenager?
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
there you go. Do you know
I
what a
think he's just
teenager
he
is?
saw Dobie Gillis and
well,
was looking at who was Bob Denver's character on Dobie Gillis.
I was
Can't think of his name, but he was the beatnik.
yeah.
And I think he just looked. He watched a couple of those episodes and just said, "All right, that's Snapper Carr, but we're going to make him more hip."
Maynard G. Krebs.
Yep, Maynard Krebs. That's right.
That's it. Yeah.
Yep, that's the guy. Whenever I talk about the street beatniks from the Madman comics, I say, look at Maynard G. Krebs. He's a street. If he was living on the streets, he would be a street beatnik. That's what a beatnik is
Yep.
Maynard G. Krebs.
And since you mentioned Mr. Denver, let me go ahead and throw out that his wife was born probably 2 hours from here.
Oh.
And when he got done and retired, they retired here, very, very close to my community. And this is ultimately where, unfortunately, he passed away. Dreama. I think Dreama's still alive.
Yeah. Did you ever run into him out in the wild, like at the grocery store or anything?
I never saw him, but they do still, and he was on it when he was alive. They did start a local radio station, Good Buddy Radio.
Nice.
And you could listen to a nice variety of older songs, which you would expect. But when they first started it, he was an on-air personality most days when the station was on the air. So you could actually listen to him, and he would have stories related to the songs or the music, or how he and Dreama met, and things like that you would expect from someone his age who was in that stage of life where that's what they did. They reminisced. But yeah, probably I don't know, 6-8 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, he died, unfortunately. And so yeah, he's no longer with us, but his wife still is, and she still has the radio station. It's still running. She makes appearances. I have run into her. I've been somewhere that Dreama was. She'll be on the radio every now and then too. So that's always kind of a cool thing, is that as personalities go, he was a pretty well-known dude, and the fact that he retired here, ultimately, it's like, if we're going to claim to fame something, Bob Denver is a good one to, we'll grab onto that.
Yeah, I think not Hugh Beaumont. Yeah, no, maybe it's Hugh Beaumont is from Lawrence.
Okay.
Which is 15 minutes that way. But did the closest I've ever come to something like that, though, is most people I ask, they've never heard of the guy. But did you ever watch Raising Hope or My Name Is Earl? He was the guy that ran the grocery store in Raising Hope, and in My Name Is Earl, he was like the first person that Earl had to go, fix what he did to him. He was like he was gay.
Yes.
And then Earl had to try to fix him up. He's from Topeka, which is Lawrence is that way, Topeka's that way.
Okay.
And when I used to work at the freaking Walgreens in Lawrence, I'm up at the counter one night and he walks in, and I went, "Is that looks like?" I didn't know his name, and I still can't off the top of my head, I can't remember his name. But I grabbed my phone, I looked up, Raising Hope, and then he comes to the counter, and he's got this, his son is with him, and I said, "Are you whatever his name is?" He goes, "Yes, I am." And I said, "I love Raising Hope. I love you in that show." And he looks at his son. He goes, "See, some people know me." And apparently he's from either he's from Topeka, or the woman he married is from Topeka, and then he moved to Topeka to be with her, and then he went to California or whatever to do the acting thing, and then eventually he lives in Topeka.
Came back. That's cool. Yeah.
All right, I got nothing else to say about this story.
Yeah, I think I'm good too.
Okay, wrap it up.
Alrighty, guys. Thanks for listening. Until next week, I'm Ed. That is Steven, and this was the Superman Super Show. Ciao.
Bye-bye. Hey, saving this one. And then we'll do our third episode.
This was 43.
43. Getting close to 50. We can do anything special for episode 50?
If you want to, I don't have a hankering one way or the other.
Like back in the day, hitting 25 and 50 were like big deals. But now that most everybody that's still podcasting is like 500 and
Well,
600,
that is,
you know?
is still podcasting, but if you research it, the average is like less than 10 before somebody
Yep.
fades away. So I mean, if you get to 20 or 25, you're like in the upper 5% of length of shows ever for podcasts.
Yep.
So, and it's always good to get those numbers because, of course, every year podcasts are dying. They won't be around much longer. So it's good to make a mark
Yeah.
before your breed completely dies.
Maybe we could do like an Ask Me Anything type of show for episode 50. Just ask
Well,
folks to send us in their questions or join us in the chat to ask questions. And
I don't have a problem with that at all, but you better hope that enough people send a question. Otherwise, you're going to be holding a bag.
We'll have what we should do. I don't know. Maybe we could have a story to talk about. That way, if we don't get any questions, at least we have something to do.
We could, yeah, that'd be one way to take care of that. That's always the problem. I watch people like Mike Myers ask a question on Twitter and just beg people to answer.
Right? Yeah.
And, I realize because I see all these things and seldom do I participate in doing whatever people are asking to do. So, I mean, I'm as guilty as anyone else.
Right.
That's largely why I try not to do stuff like that and set myself up because I am one of those people. And so it's like, well, how can I ask people when I don't? So
exactly. I've said it before on Just Another Fanboy, whenever I start to bring up feedback and how back in the day I would get voicemails and emails but then I'd be like, yeah, but of course I don't write any podcasts either.
Right.
So who am I to judge, right?
My feedback on Twitter is liking and retweeting people's posts where they post, their newest episode or stuff like that. Once or twice, maybe a week, will I actually take the time to type words on Twitter. And that's about the only place that I do anything on is Twitter. So I'm one of those guilty folks too. Yeah.
It's just a different world. People engage differently. But I mean, at the same time, it's like there are podcasts I listen to that they get tons of feedback. They get tons of audience participation. So
I dropped John's name earlier.
He gets a lot of. I actually left a big comment on his show the other day. So yeah,
I have commented on his as well. So I don't know. It's just
weird. There was something I was going to say and now I can't remember it. Oh well, must not have been that important. I hate that when that happens.
When you are. Old. Yeah.
Old. All right, I'm ready.
All right.
It's another great title to a story. You're listening to the Superman Super Show, episode number 44, The Wonder Drug Racket. Hello and welcome to the Superman Super Show. I'm a host. My name is Steven, and 1,000 miles over there to my right is another host, Mr. Ed Moore.
Howdy.
Howdy do, Ed. So I've been putting this playlist together on my phone, on my Apple Music. Okay. I have started and deleted and started over and over this playlist because I was trying to do something just really special, and then realized that I couldn't do it, and I was trying to stretch my mind back to some of the first songs I remember really enjoying, and then find out what year those songs came out, and then start building a playlist from there, going through the years and like my life in music,
Okay.
But the problem that I found really quickly was it's easy to find there, you go to Wikipedia and put like 1978 in music, and it'll tell you every album that was released, all the hit singles, blah, 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 and all that stuff. But a lot of music I didn't discover and start listening to until
you were older.
years after it was released. I became a huge Kiss fan in the late 80s and really got into albums that were released in 74, 75, so it's like, where do I put those songs?
Right. Yeah.
And so in the end, I just said, all right, I'll just start with the year I was born and just look through the songs and albums, and any of them that I immediately go, all right, that one, I'll stick it on the playlist. If I have to go, do I remember that song? Let me go listen to it. No, just pass, go on.
Don't worry about it.
And the other rule I made is that I can only pick one song off of an album, because I was going to I'd hit Appetite for Destruction by Guns N' Roses, which, as far as I'm concerned, is their only album. Anything they did after that, I just deny its existence. But I put almost every song on that album in my playlist if I had my druthers. So that's been kind of a chore when I hit certain albums, and I'm just like, oh, I can only pick one song off of Beastie Boys, License to Ill, or
just one.
Yeah. But it's been kind of fun just sitting there and listening to this playlist.
I bet.
Go from really old Van Halen to Poison, Public Enemy, just this weird mix of stuff. And I'm up to 92.
Okay.
And the playlist is over 15 hours long.
Wow.
So, but it's like one of those things that I'll probably finish getting all the music, because I'm listening to it as I'm loading it.
Mm-hmm.
So where I'm at as far as listening, I might be in 1984.
Okay.
Which, boy, that was hard too, trying to pick a Van Halen song off of 1984. I went with Panama, but
okay, that's
yeah, but it's like I'll get it all done, I'll finish listening to the playlist, and then I'll probably never open that playlist again, but it's been kind of fun.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, music is a cool thing that way.
Music has always been just a freaking huge part of my life. Whether I used to play music, but it's like I don't like silence. I just don't. Okay. And I also don't like to fill the silence by having a conversation with people I don't really know. So I try to fill it with music. So I can't drive without music, I just.
What is it they call when you talk about something inane, like the
small
weather?
Talk.
Small talk. I don't small talk.
No.
I will sit in silence before I small talk. I can't small talk.
I don't understand the need for small talk. It's
because
I do, I guess some people, most folks just cannot stand silence.
Right. Yeah.
If there's somebody in the room with them.
Yeah. Silence is bad.
Yeah.
It's So if you're not making noise, something's wrong. It's
Yeah. And I'm perfectly comfortable sitting in a room with somebody for hours on end without saying a word.
Yep.
Doesn't bother me in any way.
If there is not a reason, if there is not a commonality, I'm not going to try to make that commonality. If it's not there, okay, that's fine. I can't have something in common with everyone.
Right. Right.
And that doesn't bother me. I'm like, okay. Do I know you? Have we ever? No? Oh, okay.
Yeah. for me, it's it's part of, I guess, being on the spectrum. It's something that I've read about. Just don't, small talk's not a thing. You kind of have to learn how to do it. I'm very reactionary when it comes to small talk. I don't initiate it, but I'm usually the one. Yeah, right. Yep. That's about all. So yeah, this line's pretty long, huh? Yeah, it's pretty long.
Yeah, it's long.
Yeah. But all right. We're ready to get to the wonder drug.
Let's do it.
So yeah, we're looking at the wonder drug racket, which is the I put the third story, but this is the fourth story to appear in Superman number 5. Obviously, I was copying and pasting from the previous notes, and I didn't update it.
Missed a word.
Written by Jerry Siegel, art by Paul Cassidy. And as we've said in the last number of episodes, Superman number 5 has a cover date of summer 1940, but an on sale date of May 10th, 1940, according to Mike's Amazing World of Comics. This is also where we got our synopsis. So let's do that. When a respected man, Morton Craig, is arrested for theft, Clark investigates. Craig won't talk, but he wants to see a Dr. Bren. Using his powers, Clark follows Bren, which leads him to a racketeer, Carlin. Carlin visits a chemist, Carl Grinstead, who has developed a wonder drug, parabiolene. Is that how you would pronounce it?
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me. Yeah.
Or parabiolene. Parabiolene.
Parabiolene.
Yeah. The Man of Steel learns that Carlin has been using the drug to force honest men like Craig to steal for him. When Grinstead realizes Carlin's true motives, he tries to make an antidote, but is nearly killed. Superman has Dr. Bren administer the wonder drug to Grinstead to save his life. Then he brings Carlin to justice while Craig is released from jail. How'd you feel about this one?
I enjoyed it. Again, it had a very similar feeling to the previous two stories. So, sitting down to read all three of these back to back, they just they didn't necessarily flow one to the next, but they were so similar that it was almost like you just read almost like the next chapter and the next chapter in a continuing story, rather than abruptly he was in space and then he wasn't, and then he was, it's like, just more normal bad guys, and Clark the reporter gets into something, and Superman rescues Clark the reporter somehow, and it just I like this issue of Superman. I like the feeling of the story so far.
Yeah, it was I didn't find it as much of a whirlwind of confusion as the last one. Okay. But there were moments like, okay, we got this doctor, but he's administering the drug, but he's not the bad guy, but the professor. But now there's a professor, and he's a bad guy. And I found it interesting that 2 stories in a row dealt with a bad guy using drugs to influence people to make them do bad. What was it that the guy at the beginning, he had anemia? What was his anemia? What? I didn't look that up. Do you know what that is?
Anemia. It's not enough red blood cells.
Oh, okay.
Anemic.
Oh,
yeah.
I've heard of that.
If someone is anemic, it's it's the same root word.
We get more. Not only do we get more of Superman jumping when he's actually flying, but one guy actually yells out, "He can fly!" As he's jumping. But
even people back then thought that he should be flying. I mean, come on.
But so there's this moment, the last page. So Superman goes to Carlin. He's leaning against the doorway. Are you thinking of leaving? And it says, snatching up Carlin, Superman leaps up into the air and stunts madly, which I took to mean he's up there in the air, just doing somersaults and flipping around, and
Okay.
which, I often do when I leap up into the air.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if that means that, if we're going to use the actual laws of gravity, he jumped up in the air with the guy, and as he's falling to earth, he's doing barrel rolls and stuff like that and freaking the guy out. But it's like, just make him fly already. You want to so bad. You're right there. Just make him fly.
How about on, I don't know whatever page, it's at the bottom of the page where he has broken through the rollers that there were. Is that what it is? Yeah, metal rollers. He has busted through the wall and he's floating down to the roof, kind of like it looks like he's flying.
Yeah.
You've got an interloper there behind you on the shelf.
This is Jamie.
Okay.
Jamie is our first cat.
Just so
but
you know,
not our
Jamie's
oldest.
there, not surprise you and pounce.
Nah, Jamie wouldn't do that. He often gets on that table behind me while I'm working, and he'll just put his paws on my shoulder and just be like, "Hey, can I come over and sit on your lap?"
Let you know he's there. Okay.
Yeah, that's what he's doing right now.
Let's see. Was this? Yeah, this was the one where he gets under the car and he smooths out the road because he's Superman, and okay.
The thing though, like you were talking about with the machine, that was kind of fun though, because basically here's this machine. The professor invents this drug, but the professor wasn't really a bad guy, right? He at one point learns that Carlin is using it for nefarious means, and he's like, I don't even know who you are anymore. Like they used to be old friends or something. But we learn that Carlin doesn't need the professor anymore. He's built this factory, this machine to manufacture this drug, and Superman, to destroy the machine, instead of just going over and wrecking it, he jumps into it and goes down the belt, through the rollers, into the machine, and because he's impervious to damage, just him going through it just wrecks the whole thing. And I thought that was really clever. I really enjoyed that. That was quite a bit different than when he destroyed the car factory by just going in and smashing everything.
Yep.
So
lot more inventive. Plus, you can figure Superman maybe had a little bit better time this time destroying things because he's doing all these different things.
Yeah, and he's got all these one-liners. So as he's going through the rollers, it's about time I had my costume pressed. And then as he's flowing through the machinery, through the complicated machinery, passes Superman, battling his way through bolts, knives, drills. And he says, "This is getting complicated." And and then he comes out of the machine and they start shooting him, which he just,
These past 3 stories, that has happened a lot.
Yeah.
That he was attacked with automatic weapons. So they've graduated from just pistols, even though still it seems that nobody knows who Superman is.
Yeah.
But now everybody is carrying automatic weapons when they try to shoot Superman, but they weren't expecting Superman. They just normally are more bad guys now are starting to carry automatic weapons than previously.
Yeah. Was it the last story? It might have been the last story where they're shooting them with their machine guns and it has no effect. But one guy says, "Oh, I'll use this elephant gun on him. That'll get him."
No, I think that was in the first story. Yeah.
Oh, was it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Which it's like,
but
somebody carries around an elephant gun in case it's needed. I mean, that sounds like I don't know if you're familiar. Do you know what a BAR is? Browning automatic rifle. Yeah. So it's like somebody carrying around some big, it's like, where did you get an elephant gun and why are you carrying one around? Who do you go up against that you need an elephant gun? Yeah. Something I did notice here at the beginning, where let's see, he's talked to the dude in the jail and the thug comes in and talks to the dude in the jail. Clark starts to trail the doctor. When he changes into his Superman outfit, he doesn't have the cape on. He's holding the cape like he puts it on as a separate accessory.
Yeah.
First time we've seen that. It's
Yep.
it's always part of, although they don't show it, but it's always part of the after when he's put it on like normal. But here
Yeah.
they showed it as a separate piece that he's holding to,
Yep.
too bad. I would have liked to have seen him, with the flourish around
Yeah.
and attach, or however, how does that attach to? But yeah, so
Mhm.
notice that.
One of my favorite sequences is after he follows the doctor to this house, and he's up on the roof hiding behind a chimney, and I guess it's a rival of Carlin who is going to shoot him through the skylight, and Superman jumps over and stops the bullet with his hand,
Hmm.
and then they fall through the skylight, and then this is one of those moments where Superman pretends to be helpless.
Hmm.
He allows the bad guys to capture him and throw him in the back of the car. They take him to a bridge over a river. They shoot him. He pretends to fall and die, and then they toss him into the river, and he just sits at the bottom of the river watching them until they
Right.
leave.
Yeah, just chilling until it's time to come out.
And that's when he runs after him, grabs the back of the bumper and pulls himself under the car, and
Yep.
yeah, hits the bumps. Yeah, that's great stuff.
As Superman strikes the road's bumps, he flattens them, it tells us. Yeah. Took that one with me.
And then yeah, so we have a doctor who administers the drug at the beginning, but he didn't invent it. The professor did.
Hmm.
And then we get one gang, and then suddenly we get a second gang, and then they start fighting each other.
Right.
Superman comes in and he beats them all up, and he hangs them on these stuffed moose heads and whatnot on the wall, which is funny.
Right.
And yeah, they never really explain, as far as I can tell, what this drug actually does.
Mm-mm.
Why it's both addictive, I guess, and yet it's obviously something that can help people medically.
Right. It's beneficial because they use it to cure the inventor.
Yeah.
They give him some of it at the end, I guess, in a dosage that doesn't cause him to become addicted or whatever, but it does heal or help him heal or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got the doctor who is bad. You've got the head bad guy. You've got the creator of the drug who is not bad. You just this one, like the other story, had all of these different things going on between the two rival papers as
Yeah.
Superman was bouncing off. This one had all these different people that you're having to try to keep up with. Who is this and which one is that? And
Yeah, a lot of characters, and unfortunately, because the art, they don't always do a good job showing you the differences between them. And then when they accidentally color one guy's suit the wrong color, yeah, it can get confusing. And then of course they don't explain any of the science at all.
nope.
Why, what remind me what happened to the doctor in the first place, that he needed to take the drug to cure him. Was
He tried to kill himself
Oh,
because
okay.
his drug had been used, against
That's
what
right.
he thought it should be. And he's like, well,
That's
I
right.
am ultimately responsible. There's only one thing to do as the responsible person. And Superman came in just in time to rescue him from dying, but he still did, because he did I'll mix all these chemicals in my lab, minus of course a lightning bolt, because if there'd have been a lightning bolt he would have turned into the Flash. But
Yeah,
he mixed all these chemicals, caused a big explosion, and then Superman comes in and he's like, oh, just in time to
that's
keep him
right.
from dying. But he's still pretty messed up. It took him to the hospital, and they're like, oh well, we can fix him with his own drug. We can make him better than he was before. So
Yeah.
yeah.
the only science they really include in this whole story is when he takes the doctor to the hospital, and one of the hospital doctors tells Superman, "We can't do anything for Grinstead. He's already dead." Superman tells him, "Please do as I say. Put him in an artificial fever machine and keep the temperature high until I return." I mean, isn't having a high fever a bad thing? Doesn't it fry your brain? And
I thought so. Yeah,
yeah,
you know, when you get to a certain point, your body, the proteins that make up your body actually start coming apart. So you melt yourself if you get too
yeah.
hot and stay too hot for too long.
And I don't know if you can see this. This is on the last page. When he goes to the professor to get the drug, and the professor's like, "Oh, take me with you." And he snatches the professor up and leaps out the window. And the panel of him holding the professor under his arm, it looks like the guy's back is broken.
So, yeah, he's holding him in a very difficult position there. It's
It's got to be a more comfortable way to carry a man. But
well, like you say, at the very least, hold him in the way so that when he bends, it's not breaking his back. It's
have him.
But this way, it's like if dude bent, no, that's not gonna.
Let him bend the way he's supposed to.
Yeah, a natural bend.
Did they not have the fireman's carry by this point? Did they not know how to carry a person? I mean,
know.
He doesn't even hold him like a baby or anything. He just tucks him under his arm, and that's just how he does it with everybody.
But they have shown it before where they're stomach down when he holds him under his arm.
Yeah, this is, I think, the first time the guy is face up.
And he says, "This is fantastic." I'm like, yeah, but 3 seconds later, you lost all feeling beneath the earlobes there.
Yeah, because again, Superman's not flying; he's jumping.
Right.
So every time he hits the ground, that guy's gonna go snap. He's gonna bend the wrong way.
And every time he jumps, right, the acceleration is going to cause him to bend too.
Yep. So have you ever seen the YouTube channel Honest Trailers? Where they make a movie trailer for a movie, but it's like it almost tells you the truth, even though it's meant for comedic purposes. I would like to see somebody do that with stories like this. So Superman leaps out the window with this guy, holding him the way that he's holding him, but then by the time he gets him to the hospital, dude's dead because his back has been broken, like in 5 places.
Yeah,
it's just funny.
It's interesting the things they do think about and the things they don't think about when they're drawing.
Right. Yeah, I mean, an artist you think why would he do that? Why would he draw that? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I don't know. And it's not like, in this position, he spent a lot of time, a lot of detail or anything like that on the dude. The dude is very undeveloped as far as the drawing.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
I mean, if the writer had told him that Superman is leaping out the window holding a mannequin, that's what you would draw.
Yes.
But no, it's holding a live human being. Crazy. He's wearing those really awesome shoes with the white around the ankle. What are those called?
Spats.
Spats. That's what a spat is, huh?
Yeah.
Nice.
It's usually like a light colored something over a dark colored shoe so that you get a two-tone. You can also buy shoes expressly designed that way as well. So that way you don't have to wear spats because the shoes look like that. And I know because a couple years back, the wifey got me a pair for Christmas. They're really spiffy.
Very nice.
Saddle shoes.
Saddle shoes.
Saddle shoes look a lot like that. Yeah.
So this story ends like most of them do. He catches the bad guy, forces him to confess, and then the guy goes to jail. But we don't get the final panel with him back at work.
Mm-mm.
That's a good
He's-
story, Clark. Now get out there and get me some more news.
Right. No, this is the more humanitarian ending because the doctor was in a bad way and he saved the doctor. So we need to check in on the doctor to make sure that that worked. And actually, this goes a long way, this one last panel, into explaining why this scientist did what he did in trying to kill himself.
Yeah.
So,
And that's the last panel is the second panel in the entire story that Lois shows up in. She's in the first one, and she's in the last one.
I guess you got to make
Yep.
sure she's a part of the Superman story. You know, you got to put her in there somewhere. Maybe there's a mandate. Lois needs to be in there at least twice.
Yep. And the splash panel, the big panel at the opening of the story, has Superman saving another train,
which has nothing to do with the story.
No, and I truly believe, you know, I think we made a joke a couple of episodes back where one of those panels, it was like a guy being whipped, had no, you know, again, nothing to do with the story. And I think we made a joke that, you know, it was a panel they didn't use in an earlier story.
Right.
But I read, I think it was the foreword to the Savage Conan collection, that the first volume that collects the magazine stuff.
Okay.
And Roy Thomas writes the foreword, and it's long. It's like 10 pages or something, but he's talking about how they put together the first few issues. And there's a lot of stuff in there that they're like, all right, so we needed something for this page. And I had this piece of art that somebody drew 4 years ago that we never used. So we give him a payment and boom, it's in the magazine.
Okay.
So they obviously did stuff like that, but you know,
I haven't heard any podcasts about Conan.
I know. Don't. I've got to. I have been trying to decide what, you know, I know that I've talked about it. I've been doing all these Madman episodes in a row on Just Another Fanboy. I've got 4 more to do, and then I'm going to take a break from Madman. I'm going to do something else, and I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do. Conan is on my list. I did do one episode, and it's how I want to do the rest of them, where I have an audio book with all the Robert E. Howard stories.
Right, you compared.
Yeah, listen to the story and then read the comic adaptions and talk about it. So
yeah, was it the Frost Giant's daughter? Was that the one you talked about? Okay, because that's like I don't know if it's the first one that he wrote, but it is the first one I think that they adapted in a comic.
Yeah, it's I don't know when he wrote it. It's not his first Conan story to be published.
Okay.
His first Conan story to ever be published was Phoenix on the Sword, and he's a king already in that story, which just amazed me when I found that out. It's like, because when they do the comic book adaptions, they always try to do it in biographical order.
Right.
So the Frost Giant's daughter, while it was published later, it's his first adventure.
Right.
Biographically, or however you chronologically. Yeah. So.
Yeah, he doesn't.
So that's
get
what.
To be
yeah,
king
that's why.
Until like way down the road.
Yeah. Yeah. Phoenix on the Sword, though, is a really good story. That's the one I'm doing next. I listened to the story months ago. I just haven't finished. I haven't finished the Dark Horse version. I read the Marvel version, and then there's a Dark Horse version. I haven't finished it yet. So
okay. Well, cool. Sorry, don't mean to twist the knife. I just meant to stick
I
it
know.
in there
I know. It's like,
it's
It's like I got G.I. Joe.
Yep.
I want to do Justice League.
Oh, that's just...
Elf Quest. Moon Knight. You know.
Somewhere along the way, you're going to have to just read and not podcast about it. Just read it and move on.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of stuff. I'm not podcasting about.
Yeah.
I'm 3 volumes into
Invincible.
See, and that's it's something Doug says, I would love to listen to that Conan podcast. Yeah. And it's something that I have given thought to, because it's like my heart wants to do post-crisis Superman or Justice League International.
Okay.
But there's already a good Justice League International podcast out there, the
Okay.
Bwahaha cast or whatever it's called.
Right.
There's already a good post-crisis Superman podcast out there. Bailey is the guy's last name.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that Michael Bailey? Is that where he is?
Yeah, Michael Bailey.
Post-crisis?
And he's been doing it for years. He's like way far into it at this point. But
From Crisis to Crisis, I think is the name of that show.
Yes, exactly. That's it. Yeah. So it's like, all right, well, but if I should do something that not a lot of people are doing, and the first two that come to mind there are Moon Knight or Conan. So.
Okay, there is an active Moon Knight podcast.
Oh, well then I guess Conan is the way I got to be leaning.
Well, but they're quite a ways in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somewhere along the way, probably somebody has talked about early Conan, but it's been so long ago that I'm pretty sure that there's not a current Conan podcast. Nobody talking about like the Marvel stuff that just ended or anything like that I've seen. So, and even like you mentioned ElfQuest, there is there's a couple ElfQuest shows that come to mind, but neither one of them are really active right now. So.
Yeah. And I mean, that's when I have, because I have recorded 2 episodes to my post-crisis Superman. Mm-hmm. That if I launch it, it won't be till July, and hopefully I'll have 6 or 7 episodes under my belt. And while there is that show From Crisis to Crisis out there, the way I kind of look at it is they're a 2-voice podcast.
Right.
I'm doing it by myself, so it's going to be a different type of feel. Plus, they're so far into it at this point that if you want to jump in and start listening to the first you got a lot of episodes to go through. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's.
We always seem to end up at the end of the night whenever we do these talking about all the bad decisions I've made with podcasting.
No, not at all. I like giving you a hard time, and you bite and we just run with it. So.
There was a show, I don't know if it's still active. Wasn't there a show called Days of High Adventure? It's not primarily a Conan podcast.
No,
it's like fantasy comic books. But.
He hasn't put out an episode in a little while, but I don't think he's abandoned the process.
Yeah.
I believe. No, I'm not going to say that. He does some other shows, but what they are isn't coming to mind. So I don't want to. Yeah. I don't want to confuse him with somebody else. But yeah,
I think he might be one of those regular writers to John's podcast.
I think so.
I feel like John mentions that podcast a lot.
Professor Allen, he writes in a lot of feedback to Professor Allen too, because Professor Allen has run his teaser or whatever you want to call it on his show before. Okay, so let's finish this one
anything else you got? Yeah, anything else on this story?
No, obviously not, because we
right, because we're talking about something else.
We went way off the rails there.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up.
Alrighty.
We want to thank everybody for listening. I think next week, which would be the next episode, not the next week for us, but I think the next issue we have is another World's Fair, the second one. I think they only did 2, right?
Yeah.
And this has got Batman on the cover with him, so.
Yeah, I think it's an anthology book, and it's got several.
Yeah.
We undoubtedly in the Superman hardback that we're looking at, we'll only have the Superman story, but I believe there was a Superman and a Batman and a Green Arrow come to mind, and maybe that's all I can remember. But yeah, it was an anthology book, like Action has been. So.
Yep. All right. So until then, folks, my name is Steven, and that's Ed. And this was the Superman Super Show. Bye.
Adios.
All right, 3 episodes. I think 3 is probably typically going to be our
Yeah.
our goal.
This shows we've been recording for almost 2:20. So
Yeah, when I was putting the live feed together yesterday, I was like, wow, this is 15 times we've gotten together to do
yeah,
this.
that's cool.
44 episodes out of 15 times.
Which that math comes awful close to 3 per recording. So
On average. All right, dude. Doug, thanks again for joining us.
keep on
We
him
always-
about that Conan podcast, Doug.
Yeah. I do. I just always get, every once in a while, I'll just get this bug to I gotta read some Conan. There's something about Conan. Conan was probably really my first foray into any type of fantasy. My introduction to fantasy in general
Really?
was
Okay.
probably Conan, and it was the movie Conan the Destroyer,
Okay.
not Conan the Barbarian. We weren't allowed to watch Conan the Barbarian. It was rated R. But Conan the Destroyer,
Okay.
God, what was that? 84 maybe. I was in grade school and we had HBO, and I felt like they just played it on HBO all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 84. Yeah, okay. Yeah, that was the one with Wilt Chamberlain and Mako.
Yep.
Okay, Grace Jones.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I get the two of them confused, the two Schwarzenegger Conan movies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, the first one had James Earl Jones as the bad guy.
Right.
Looking very silly.
In his big priestly bear robes or whatever those were.
Yeah. Well, and the fact that he had long hair with bangs,
mm-hmm.
It's like the James Earl Jones I know does not look like that. And it just was weird looking.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. It does show that we have 2 people listening. So hello, silent person. Thank you for watching. I said listening, but watching. They may be listening. I don't know. They may not be watching.
Well, we're not going to quibble.
That's right. Safe from the China balloon barrage. I'm just now noticing your.
Yeah, that's me. You know how people check in safe on Facebook? Yeah. Conan was one of the first comics I started reading. Yeah, I remember very vividly the amount of that Conan black and white magazine that was on the racks when I was buying other things when I was growing up.
Yeah, I was definitely reading the Marvel comics, and they had both the Conan and then King Conan, which came a little bit later. I was quite shocked recently, though, when I was looking at some of that to find that that's where Mark Silvestri kind of started, was on Conan.
Yes, on Conan. Yeah. If you dig into it, a lot of these guys that are like, wow, it's like they started there. I don't even remember seeing. Well, yeah, that's exactly how that happens, is that they are somewhere that you don't recognize, and then they get big and you remember seeing them.
Yeah, I think the first time I feel like the first time I read anything by John Romita Jr. was the Star Brand comic, but that can't be right because I know I read X-Men before then when he was on X-Men. But
then you would have had to have seen him on X-Men, yeah.
Right. But yet I remember distinctly at some point in the late 90s reading, I think it was when he was back on X-Men, reading one of those books and going, why does this remind me of Star Brand so much? And then I picked up and I was like, holy crap, he did Star Brand.
Okay, let me
it was
see
the
if
same
I can
with
jog your memory.
Okay.
Kurt and Wolverine and Colossus go to town. Colossus gets in a knockdown drag out with the Juggernaut, not in uniform.
Yep.
That was John Romita Jr. And
Yes.
that was an issue before Starbrand.
Yeah.
That is an issue that sticks in my mind because I just thought the art was so amazing in that fight scene between
Yep.
Colossus and Juggernaut. And that was just,
Yeah. And
and yeah,
it's weird though that my brain for some reason went to Starbrand, because when I think, the things, what I remember as far as John Romita Jr. X-Men, Nimrod immediately comes to mind.
yes. Okay. Yeah. There's another one.
And then there was probably my second favorite X-Men story, which was only 2 issues. The one where he
Cullen
was an
Gath
old, I
and
think he was an
like,
old, yeah, Cooling Gas, puts the mystic barrier around Manhattan and everybody turns into fantasy characters.
right. Yeah.
Oh, that was so cool. Love that so much.
Yep. Yeah. Those
And
were,
that was of course John Romita Jr. But
now it's a very different John Romita Jr. than what you'll see
yes,
nowadays.
yeah, yeah.
I'll leave it at that.
He's
I much enjoyed that earlier stuff than probably a lot of his more newer stuff.
Yeah, and is that because of who was inking him at the time? Is
I
maybe, I'm
think
sure that had a lot to do with it, but
a lot of it has to do with every artist
oh yeah,
when they get over the hill, they don't spend as much time on any single piece of art as they used to
yeah,
because they don't have to. They made their bones. People are going to buy it off the name,
yep,
and the art is just not as that person as it used to be.
yeah,
Whatever you want to say they do or don't do, whatever. But all of the big name artists that you can think of, there's somewhere is a break between
yep,
what it was and what it is now, and it just looks like what it is now. They just are not spending as much time on as they did earlier in their career. So,
yeah. I will say, the one Marvel comic, new-ish Marvel comic that I've been reading is the Amazing Spider-Man, with Zeb Wells is writing it and John
mhm.
Romita Jr. is back on pencils. He looks really good in that
Oh,
book. He
okay,
looks really good.
cool.
But I do remember like World War Hulk,
Yeah,
and when he was on Wolverine, I just remember
yeah,
going, this is not,
yeah.
this
I'm
is
not
not John.
digging
I
this
mean,
Ramita. It's,
yeah,
yeah. Doug, yeah, that's some seminal X-Men in my mind
yeah,
too.
yeah,
Um, for the past 3 or 4 years, I've been reading through. I might have brought it up here. I'm sure I have a personal reading project that I call. You've seen me post it on Twitter.
yep,
My complete X slash adjacent read through, and I'm just now into 1986, I think, about to cross into 87. Something like I'm at Inferno is where I'm at, and yeah, all of this from of course, the Claremont Burn, probably all the way up to where Jim Lee does the adjectiveless X-Men. Claremont writes the first 2 or 3 and then drops off. That that time frame right there is my X-Men. All the different things they go through, Gambit and that's where Generation X comes in, and so much happens there. Actually, pretty soon after that, I left the X franchise for probably 15, 20 years because of financial reasons. I just couldn't keep up with it, and so, but that's just good stuff, good characters. To me, other people don't like it. They don't like the writing. They don't like art. They don't like. Okay, that's perfectly fine. That is my X-Men, and that's what I compare to. Those things and those artists and writers and characters. When I read now, if something isn't like it then, I don't like it as much. Something is wrong. Either the character is wrong or, things like that. So I think everybody has those periods with characters that they really like, and that's for the
yeah,
X-Men, that's me. For the Avengers, it's the uh, Bomber Jacket Avengers with the Black Knight and Cersei and Crystal. Dr. Druid for a little while. Those are my Avengers, where was it the Masters of Evil just beat the living poop out of Jarvis, and it was
Yeah,
like,
that
oh, not
that is
Jarvis. Oh man, yeah,
Sal it's either Sal
with
or John Buscema with Tom Palmer on inks. That's
yeah,
my
Palmer on ink.
that's my Avengers.
Yeah, yeah, that's
That I started reading Avengers, maybe 6, 7 issues before the Under Siege storyline.
yes,
And
yeah,
it's
Under Siege.
because of the other Under Siege storyline. Yeah, when they beat the crap out of Jarvis, I was just like, I couldn't believe it.
I
I'm just
know,
sitting there going, he's just a regular old man,
I know. It's like, oh, those are
crazy.
bad guys.
Yeah,
They are bad.
exactly. And for the X-Men, I have 2 eras. One
Okay,
is the John Byrne era or the John Romita Jr. era.
okay,
And I've said it many times. I think it's issue 205 of Uncanny X-Men. It's a done in one story that Barry Windsor Smith does.
oh yeah.
It's Wolverine, and it's my single favorite comic book issue ever.
Is that a
It's
Wolverine Lady Deathstrike?
yes,
Was that is
yeah,
that that one?
and
Yeah,
then it has the
and it's
little girl from Power Pack in it as well.
yeah, it's like rainy, stormy, snowy,
Snowing, yeah,
something
it's
like
around
that. Yes,
Christmas. Yep.
yes, 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 yes.
And
Yep.
he's
That's
basically gone. He's been wounded
he's
when you first encounter him in the story. He's been wounded just
he's feral.
horrifically. Yeah,
Yeah,
back when Wolverine would take a wound, would be wounded like that, and it actually affected him.
yeah.
Nowadays he gets hit by a frickin' nuclear bomb,
Well,
and 7
yeah.
panels later he's back to normal. But
He can.
back then you stabbed him in the gut with the frickin' sword, and it took him a while to come
Right.
back from that.
He recovered,
So
but he went down.
yeah,
It
yep,
it it messed with him.
yeah.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
that's what was so great about his healing factor. It's not that he could heal from any wound. It's seeing him in that state. I've always enjoyed characters like John McClane from Die Hard, who will get the crap kicked out of him, but they keep
But
getting back
keep
up.
keep going. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. It's that movie Captain America. I can do this all day.
Do this all day. Yep.
That's yep.
Yep. And I think that was the theme to basically that latest Spider-Man movie.
Hmm.
Keep knocking us down, but we always get back up.
Yep. That's what that is a hero.
Yeah,
That's the way a
exactly.
hero does. It's.
But then my second era would be for X-Men would be when uh tail end of Mark Silvestri and then Jim Lee coming on. I
Yeah.
remember the first Jim Lee issue of X-Men. It wasn't the first one that he did, but it was the first one that I read. And I was like, oh my God, this guy was born to draw Wolverine. Wolverine looks so good under his pencils.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Jim Lee is another one that the stuff when he does it that he puts out now, it's like I don't remember it like this. This is not in my mind's eye
no,
what I see when I think Jim Lee.
no, that big Batman story he did with
Hmm.
Jeff Loeb, it's like that's where it just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
the
That was
Superman one that he does later is pretty good. But yeah, his new 52 redesign of Superman, don't like any of those costumes.
well, Jim Lee was there. He made his bones, sold his company, made a mint, I'm sure. Um, look where he is now.
It's funny because Clark Kent Superman, Kal-El, for me, he's got to have the trunks outside of
Okay.
the pants, right? If he doesn't, I just think it looks dumb. And yet his son, Jonathan, I love his Superman costume. And it
Okay.
doesn't have the trunks.
Right.
So it's like, I think his costume's awesome, but you put that on Clark, I'm going to be like, no, that's not Clark's Superman costume.
Right.
So, all right. Yeah, I'll give the Conan some deep thought.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
that would be kind of fun.
couple votes. Well, particularly, I think it sounds like what you were thinking as far as being able to compare and contrast these different renditions of the very same story, the very same thing. Um,
Yeah.
what you liked, what you didn't like, which do you like best, or, so um, also you probably have noticed there's another company that's putting out Conan stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
The it's just called the Sumerian
yes, 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 yes. And
because
it's a different set of stories apparently
yep.
than anybody else is able to get a hold or something. I don't know how they're able to
Well,
do it, but
it's
it's
because they did a Frost Giant's Daughter adaptation.
oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, it was part of the episode. Basically, they from what I understand, Conan is in the public domain now, but they can't do an issue. They can't do it. They can't title it Conan, which is
Okay. Okay.
how they can do it. They got to title it the Sumerian. But they are, unlike Dark Horse and Marvel, they're not censoring it in any way. So the Frost Giant's Daughter, she's naked in it because she
Right.
was
Yeah.
in the original story. She actually does some stuff that she didn't do in the original story that
Okay.
kind of crazy. But yeah, it's basically they're supposed to be more in line with the Robert E. Howard stuff because they're not censored or
Okay.
they don't try to make them PG or PG-13.
Right.
Uh, but I know that Frost Giant's Daughter, it was 3 issues and it didn't need to be. It was good. The art was gorgeous. It was pretty good. But yeah, it's kind of like when Peter Jackson adapted The Hobbit and made it into 3 movies. You don't need to do 3 movies for
Yeah.
The Hobbit. You don't need to do 3 issues for the Frost Giant's Daughter, but they did, and it had a lot of stuff in it that wasn't in the original story.
Right. Yeah. Just
But
to fill
I
it out.
haven't read a lot of the other stuff, but I know that they're all. I think everything that they've put out is an adaptation of one of his
Okay.
stories because they actually credit him as the writer. They'll put whoever adapted it. They'll say written by so and so and Robert E. Howard.
Okay.
So
Maybe that's how they're getting away with it is they're only adapting his
yeah,
actual prose.
probably yeah, yeah. All righty. Well, Doug, I'm going to end our live stream here. What do we want to? Let's see. What's the date? Happy Valentine's Day.
Oh, yeah. Thanks.
My wife slept in late today, and at one point she was in the kitchen, and one of my daughters said, "Dad, did you get anything for your mom or did you get anything for mom for Valentine's Day?" And I said, "No." And I said, "Oh, honey, happy Valentine's Day." And she goes, "Oh yeah, it's Valentine's Day." We've we've never
Well,
celebrated it.
not
I
only
mean,
that,
maybe at
but I
the
mean,
very beginning, but
adults, the deeper we get into adulting, the more difficult it is to keep up with things like that. It's,
right.
uh, you know,
It's like she's always said, "Look, if you're only going to give me flowers one day of the year, kind of crap is that?" you know, don't give me flowers
but,
because you're
uh,
supposed to, because it's Valentine's Day.
okay,
Give me
okay,
flowers on a day that's not Valentine's Day because you want to.
not only that, but this is where I have to say, of course, your wife deserves to get flowers more often than that,
Yes.
or cards, more, or whatever the gesture is. That is what I have to remember.
Yep.
It's like, well, if you're going to do it, then just do it. Don't do it because of this
Right.
day, and
Because
just do it.
because
And so,
corporate America tells us we're
yeah,
supposed to.
and I make it a point to do it then also because honestly, everybody else around her
Yeah.
is,
Oh yeah.
so
If yeah, if you're in a job environment like that, yeah, it's kind of 2 or 3 Valentines ago. She was working. She was working at the school, and I did
okay,
something
okay.
then. Yeah. So
Yeah, yeah. It's, so it's all of these things, yeah, but it's like it's just you and it's just her and it's home and it's like, oh, okay, yeah. Like Terry and I did exchange cards, but we came home after work. She made us dinner. We did stop and get a dessert out to have a dessert, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
There were all kinds of ads for buy our restaurant package, and you can and we're like, no, we don't. It's not.
Mm.
We'll go home and we'll watch. Actually, I almost forgot about recording tonight
Yeah.
because I was so set on just doing a normal thing today rather than
Right.
some
Yeah.
Valentine thing, just come home and watch some TV, put something on that we want to see, and just sit there and real Netflix,
Yeah.
and so
I wasn't even thinking that it was Valentine's Day when I.
yeah.
Yeah. But we
Okay.
used to usually give chocolates and stuff to our kids on Valentine's Day.
Okay.
But now it's like what Valentine's Day means for us is that tomorrow chocolate's going to be like 50% off.
Okay.
So,
Now there's
like,
a way to
hey,
look at it.
yeah. Palin
Yeah.
was asking me earlier, can we get discounted Valentine's candy tomorrow? And I said, yeah, probably.
Yeah, we can.
Yeah.
Go down that aisle at your whatever grocery store, and it'll just be now discounted. Some portion of however many aisles will also be the next holiday stuff.
Right.
They will
Oh, yeah.
already have put it out. So, but
Yep.
you will
I
also have the discounted stuff. So
worked at that freaking Walgreens for a number of years, and it's like, all right, this holiday's over, take this stuff down, move it
Yep.
over to this side, and put the discount tags up, and then we'll start putting I guess it would be Easter at this point. They'll be putting
Well,
Easter stuff up.
maybe St. Patrick's Day. Maybe.
Oh yeah, yep. We always had a very kind of a small. It's like we would put St. Patrick's Day and Easter up at the same time.
Sure.
St. Patrick's Day would get like an end cap, and it would just
You're going to know the St. Patrick's Day stuff because it's going to have green shit all in it.
Right.
Whatever, so it's like, but just keep rolling out the next one.
Easter, Christmas, Halloween, Valentine's Day, they're all candy holidays. So there's always a lot of crap for those holidays.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, you don't have too much candy for St. Patrick's Day. It's green beer or green whatever the river is that runs through Chicago. You always see pictures of it, whatever the Chicago.
Yeah, so
I don't know
all they would have at Walgreens for St. Patrick's Day would be like shamrock necklaces or hats, or stuff like that. It was decorative stuff. It wasn't any type of food item at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think there's anything edible that I really associate with St. Patrick's Day.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to go ahead and end this live stream. Doug said goodbye. I don't know if he's left yet, but bye, Doug.
Yeah, we're kind of conditioned to